No, that pretty much just stopped. They, he, she, whoever it is, just kind of pussied out and never really followed through with anything and just kind of was a dork.
Okay.
Didn't really expect that person to really come through, you know what I'm saying?
Could have been epic.
Could have been epic.
Could have, should have, bro.
You know, but hey, it still stands. If Linux Hater really wants to throw down...
Throw down with Brian. He's welcome, or she.
Yeah, she
or
is
she.
welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
That would have been fun for Chris to watch, you know, because I get the nice advantage of watching from a distance. But it was not meant to be, Brian, I don't believe. So,
No,
you know,
no.
there's that.
There is that, isn't there?
All
right.
We get the news.
This is episode 6?
Episode 7.
7?
Season 10. Episode 7.
Wow.
Almost a 10. Almost a 10, Brian.
Wow. Wow. Chris.
What do you think?
Chris. Wow.
Do you have any news stories? Because I'm a little light on actual good news.
I got nothing, man. There's no news going on right now. No.
Ask the chat room. Chat room,
Hey, you guys got any good news stories? You know, shout them out. From the rooftop, shout them out. You know, baby, I'm ready to go.
IP is changing. New Files router. Don't have my DHCP reservations anymore.
Who needs them?
Well, I would kind of like them.
Oh, yeah. You need them.
Like a boss.
Like a boss?
All right. I've got more Cast Blast stories than I do. Oh, that's not true. I've actually got some decent stories here. I guess I was telling a little joke.
Was that just a quick little joke?
Shoot, I already forgot what my IP was. No, I didn't. Sweet. All right, we'll disarm this track because that's going to be our this, that. Then, so that's this week. Then we have music.
Music.
This is our actual track here.
From the rooftops, shout it out.
This is dumb. I have to do this
What are you doing?
for each one? Really?
What are you doing?
Have to set what the audio hardware is for each one?
You shouldn't have to.
Do that?
You should be able to go in and set
oh,
that.
now, once I've set it, I can apply it to all. Okay.
Yeah, I would think so. At least that's how it normally works.
There is a USB soundboard coming out. It's a mixer. It's got 8 connections, 8 phantom-powered connections, USB, and they all show up as separate channels to the OS. So if that Mackie goes, it's $300. If that Mackie goes, that might be the way to go. I'd rather
Nice.
have another Mackie.
Nice, that's not bad.
Okay. We're armed for recording. Do you have anything you want to talk about at the top of the show?
I
I was thinking about maybe doing a call for if anybody's been considering doing the donations, because we've had 5 drop off because their accounts have been bouncing in the last week.
Oh yeah, right.
So we're kind of falling below our threshold.
We are actually. So we'll talk about that a little bit.
Anything else at the top of the show?
I got nothing, man.
Okay. I got okay. So here's what I was thinking, Brian. It's a lot of pre-show for you people, but really quickly,
Fedora
'cause
stuff,
we've been
yeah.
setting up and we haven't really. One of the things I was thinking about was we should do. We got a lot of Fedora and Mono related stuff, and
Yep.
so here's my
yeah,
thought.
we do.
We do the news segment, and then we keep all of that stuff out of the news segment, and then we do like maybe listener questions in the second segment, and then well, that might be too long. We basically I was thinking we should let the Fedora Mono stuff be its own segment. So if people want to tune out at that point, they have a specific point where they know they need to tune out. They don't need to tune out the whole show.
Okay.
Do you have the Google Docs over there to get the GoDaddy?
Yes.
Promo. We'll have to do that right before we do the news. Okay, chat room. So, did anybody have any really cool news stories that I missed? Whatever we
Bring
have
up
for
the ad reads here.
I'm reading the chat room to see if anybody gave any news suggestions.
Not really.
Pictures of cats. That's not a bad one.
That cat probably runs late. All right.
Hmm.
I think we're good on that front.
Okay. I don't think we want to do that one.
Well, if the the news is a little light, the news is a little light. That's just how it works.
Seems like after 2 weeks we should have more news.
But hey, come on. It was like the end of like a quarter of school,
Yeah,
and it's hitting the
true.
summertime.
That's true.
It's not really prime big announcement
I also
time.
didn't do like my big ritual.
See, I've been keeping my eye out. There just hasn't been anything going on.
I didn't do my big pre-show Google Read ritual where I have like all the dev blogs and everything like that. That's my secret sauce I just gave away right there. Is I subscribe to a bunch of different developers that work on different projects, so I can try to get stuff before it even becomes a press announcement. So take that and make your own podcast and beat us. Oh yeah, VirtualBox 3.0 beta is not bad. Wine Doors is back online.
Oh yeah, VirtualBox 3.0 beta. Yeah, let's call that one out. That was not bad.
VirtualBox 3.0 beta. Let me see if we've got.
That's not a bad one.
The USB 3.0. Who suggested that? USB 3.0.
Yeah.
USB 3.0. The thing is, it's not actually working.
Real.
It's it's like they are on track to have it merged in and.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. If we talk about it now about how big it is that Linux gets 3.0 first, which for one thing, no devices, so it doesn't matter. For another,
it's cool though.
It's cool, but for another thing, if we don't end up being first, then we just look like posers. So it's just like theoretically we could be first is really what it is.
Well,
right
I
now.
guess they've got the code. Right.
They have the theoretical code.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not.
I
we don't have anything. We don't have anything merged in and checked in the main line yet, and until that happens, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. I thought we actually had like early code. So, but I do like.
Well, we have early code, but so does Microsoft and so does Apple.
Oh, I guess
it's just that we're open, so everyone knows when we have early stuff.
I like that though, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic that Linux will be the first one to get it, but I'm going to hold off saying anything until it happens.
I got you, big guy. Okay, so but VirtualBox, that's a great shout out. I got that added to the list.
Nice.
So GIMP 2.6, 3.
No.
Thanks, Iron MB, for the link. That is very handy. I just got it. I just googled that.
Nice.
But if that helps, if you have a news story you want to suggest and you want to throw out the URL for it, that makes it a little quicker.
I do like URL.
We are first to get Flash 64-bit, but that was a news story a little bit ago.
That was a news story actually almost a year ago.
But it was recently revved, but we missed the rev, and so now it's like reporting on news from a couple months ago.
Yeah, but it's not. It was a bug fix rev. It's no big deal.
I think when they come to when they go final.
I mean, really, why would we cover bug fix revisions for Flash?
I like GAP for GIMP, but I don't think that's the big. I don't think that's the Linux Action Show's news story. That's like maybe an in-depth look, possibly. It's maybe a collection of plugins.
It's just the
plugins.
plugins.
Cool,
yeah,
but yeah,
it's all right. It's not really a show thing.
I like this gal that's been doing these Ubuntu videos, and it's just decent looking there. I'd like to say hi to her. Opera 10, no. Firefox 3.5 I'm pissed at because it doesn't have process isolation, and I don't know why you're shipping a browser in the second half of 2009 without process isolation. IE8 is kicking your ass in that regard, Firefox.
Everything is kicking their ass.
Well,
Firefox is done.
The only other browser... Oh, I guess Opera doesn't have it either.
Dude,
Opera 11 will have it, though.
But see, that's just it. No, Firefox is done.
You think so?
Yep, it's done.
I don't know about that. I think they're just behind right now.
Well, see, that's the thing is, everyone keeps talking about how Firefox keeps gaining browser market share. It doesn't really.
They pulled an IE. They got big, and then they kind of stopped.
Well, they never got big, though. They got bigger than people thought they would get. I mean, because IE always trounced them. There was, I mean, Firefox never even came close to IE market share.
IE is the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah, but there's Chrome, there's Safari, there's Opera, there's
the
Firefox.
WebKit browsers.
Yeah, and there's so many
Opera
browsers. I mean, of course, IE is less than it's ever been,
but that's
not because of Firefox.
Did you see Microsoft's Get the Facts campaign with IE8? It was so ridiculous.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb. Pretty dumb.
I'm like, come on, Microsoft. This smacks is desperate. I've got over 1,000 stories in my Google Reader.
Do you really?
Don't think I'm going to have time to go through. Clutter 1.0 releases now. Do you want to talk about that?
No,
we've
you know what?
Before,
it's worth a shout out. Actually,
do you want to? Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to be one worth talking about too long, but it's worth a shout out.
I'll add that.
I forgot about that one.
NVIDIA GeForce GTX. No, Wine. These guys just keep pumping these things out. Wine private releases. That's freaking cool. NVIDIA privately releases an OpenCL Linux driver. I would love to see OpenCL come to Linux.
That would be nice.
That would make Chris so happy.
That would be really nice.
Man, do we need that?
really do.
But what?
Almost as much as I'd go so far as to say without that in about a year, we're done.
What app, though, takes advantage of it?
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's not. No app's going to take advantage of it until it exists.
Right,
Just
that's
the thing.
true. Yeah.
I mean, technically, like OS 10 shipped the Quartz Extreme stuff and the OpenGL shader language stuff with OS 10.3. No app really took advantage of it.
Took a while. Well, like there's just the Windows Presentation Foundation apps are just now coming out, which was shipped in Vista to.
No, it shipped before that. It was part of .NET previous to Vista.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. This is great because we have to get this out there in order for apps to take advantage of it. So that's good. That's good stuff.
Any other shout? I haven't.
I was looking at that list. No, I don't. I think that's good. That sounds pretty solid.
You know what I'm really impressed with is the PPA method for Ubuntu, where you can go, like when I installed Ubuntu's what's that called? Ubuntu One.
Yeah.
They just have a button you press on their website.
We're talking about Ubuntu One today, right?
I don't really think I'm ready.
I'm not really either.
But I could talk about initial impressions. But you click a button, and that button then pops up. It downloads a little deb, which they've added a handler to Firefox, so it knows, and then it installs sources list and adds the key to your the GPG key, and then you click another button and it installs Ubuntu One, and you're done. It's like click. It's really slick. 2-click install for that. All right, you guys. I think we're gonna go with what we got. Unless I haven't been watching Terrams for a bit because I've been reading.
No, that works pretty good for me. Yeah.
MS shipping. Here's the thing. Danoffs. The Win 7 without IE is an option. Optional Windows are making it available in Europe.
Yep.
And nobody's going to buy it.
No, really, why would you? Why would you go that route? I mean, even if you don't want to use IE, why would you say, please don't give me as much software?
Well,
because there's no price difference.
I don't know.
So why would you say? I'm like, even if you don't want to use the software, you know what I mean? It's like it's like getting an Ubuntu desktop and saying, no, I do not want to have the option to install OpenOffice. Please do not let me have OpenOffice. Yeah. I will only use KOffice. And it's like, well, no, still want the option to have it, right? So of course you don't want the options taken away from you. So it just seems silly to me.
Right. Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. From me as a user point of view, it just seems ridiculous.
The rumor is that they have a dude working on it at Microsoft, and that Microsoft doesn't expect to sell a single copy of it.
No, I wouldn't if I were them. I wouldn't expect that.
How's our levels look? We're looking good, right?
Yeah, we seem to be pretty solid.
All right.
There, yeah.
I think I'm going to call that good for the news because we got to get the show rolling here.
All right, let's rock with
this.
The
wife's on the way.
Yeah.
Let me get my Runs Linux ready. Okay. All right, chat room. Here we go. I lied a little bit.
We're not ready to go.
This is a big pre-show. This is a big one. This is where you watch behind the scenes.
Per se, but we're going to go.
All right. You ready, Brian?
Are you kidding me?
So season 10, episode 7.
I know.
All right.
I just hit you in the arm.
You don't always know. Let's be clear. You don't always know.
Shut up. And welcome to Linux Action Show, Season 10, Episode 7. My name is Brian. With me, of course, is Chris.
Hey, Brian. Popcorn Hour's latest C200 media box runs Linux, plays Blu-ray, and a jillion formats.
Wait a minute. The new Popcorn Hour plays Blu-rays?
Yeah, dude. Kind of cool, huh?
Really?
Now, it doesn't come with a Blu-ray player, but if you add a Blu-ray drive, it has a interface for a drive. If you add it, it'll play them.
So it's Blu-ray certified?
I guess, yeah. It has the chip in it to do the decoding.
Really?
Yeah. So, or in that slot, you can hook up, because it's just like a SAT interface or whatever.
Sure.
You could hook up a hard drive or whatever you want in there. So we've talked a lot about the Popcorn Hour because it's a pretty nice device. We both are A100 owners, and so this is kind of like the next generation. First of all, I'll say we haven't seen it in person, but it looks really good. It's got a nice LCD screen.
It really does. It looks like a nice improvement over the C100.
And the nice thing about the Popcorn Hour, and this kind of continues that tradition, is they really don't care how you get the media.
No.
You have the Windows Media Extenders, but they only connect to Media Center, or you have Apple TV, but it only connects to iTunes, or you can do Myth, but then you kind of have to brew everything yourself. Now, the Popcorn Hour, if
you can get it any way you want. Just a file share sitting somewhere.
It'll do broadcast networks. It'll do UPnPs for like.
It does FTP, doesn't it?
It does FTP, NFS, Samba, Windows Media Connect. It'll do.
That's just rad.
DNLA. It also has support for their HTTP server, which is a pretty cool little deal that streams your media over HTTP because that's ultra fast.
Way faster.
But if you want to do FTP, Samba, NFS, you can do all those things.
Yeah.
It supports torrent downloads too. It does some peer-to-peer networks. It can get content off of YouTube, Flickr, all the different online sites. Now check this out though, Brian.
I'm ready to check this out.
Hi there. How's your
leg?
leg?
You just touched me
Hi there,
with your leg. That was.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So media files supported is basically every video file ever created.
Pretty much anything,
including full range for MKVs up to HD.
Yeah.
For the X.264
files, everything.
No OGG Theora.
I find that strange.
It has OGG audio support. You got audio support, Brian.
But no Theora.
No Theora.
Vorbis, but not Theora.
Right.
So I don't understand that.
It'll play VOB files. It will play MTS. Like if you take a Blu-ray and say you had means to copy a Blu-ray and you copied it directly to an MTS file, or if you brought in an AVC HD file off of a high definition camcorder, it'll play that file raw.
Yeah, it'll play the huge giant FLAC files. It'll play everything.
Not OGG Theora.
But no OGG video.
It runs Linux. I mean, how many times do we have to see a device come out? You have
seriously.
You have some of the Arcos devices don't play Arcos. They'll play OGG audio, but they don't play the video. You've got the Palm Pre Linux device doesn't play OGG at all. You've got Android doesn't play OGG.
In some of the devices, it makes sense. Like some of the Arcos. I mean, OGG video playback is really processor intensive.
I agree.
And so in some of the portable devices it makes sense, but in this particular case, this is handling some of these formats are much more CPU intensive.
When you can roll raw VOB files and raw Blu-ray files and VC1 and H.264, you can do OGG Theora.
Yeah, if you're doing the H.264, you can do OGG Theora.
But aside from that, this box is that you are the gas is to the pedal to the floor. You can do whatever you want. Any audio out, you've got any kind of Dolby connection.
Now
it can play raw ISO files.
On the plus side, though,
just connect right to an ISO.
And this is perhaps horrible to say, but nobody uses OGG Theora, so it really doesn't matter.
Well, that's
that
not.
much.
You know,
There's like
Augur or whatever it is that it's a DVD ripper on Linux that it just rips your DVD.
But I mean,
right to
even those of us on Linux don't really use OGG. We use things like Xvid and X264.
I do prefer Xvid and X264 for my video.
I
think there's a lot of our listeners that probably
standpoint.
I think a lot of our I think there's a chunk of our listeners that go with the Theora video.
I mean, I did go like
we put our video out. This episode will be out in OGG Theora. Well,
I know, but that's just like one option, though. I mean, no one would ever. I mean, very few people would ever have just OGG Theora. You know what I'm saying? I kind of understand. It's not really a priority. That said, it is kind of strange that they have support for everything but Theora.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah,
I do agree. If you're going to throw everything in there, but anyway, so it's 667 megahertz CPU,
cool.
which
Pretty
is
cool.
It has this one has an FPU floating point processor, so it can do some nice math. 512 megs of RAM, and it also comes with a 256 local storage. Then of course you can add a drive or whatever.
That's not bad.
You name it, it can do it. It can do this. Now this is
a
really
cool
big deal.
device.
It can do 12-bit YCC color, which is very rare in a device in this price range.
Yeah.
I have a video decoder sitting over there that was $500 that only goes up to 10-bit. And this is a $200 device that'll do 12-bit video playback. Now that's for capturing, but
still,
keep
just
in perspective,
the same. That's
the technology
they're
putting in this is incredible. So
they do a great job, and they did a great job on their earlier device. This is the new one. I expect good things from it.
And they've got a gigabit Ethernet port in there, and they've got a mini PCI slot so you could throw in an N adapter or a G adapter.
Gigabit Ethernet port. I mean,
yeah. Well, when you're doing these MKV files.
I guess that's true. I mean, when you're streaming across, an 8 gig file.
Yeah, there you go.
But still, it seems like even a 100 megabit port would be just
you'd think
fine.
so. Well,
I mean, it's not like it's a server. I mean,
yeah.
But still, that's very, very slick.
It is very slick, and so that's rocking Linux. And
plus I love toys, so that works for me.
I have 2 TiVos now. I bought an old one off Brian, and I got a new one, and those are running Linux. So it's interesting to see these. Of course, that also doesn't play OGG, but it's interesting to see these different Linux-based media devices. It's kind of cool. So it's one way to get Linux in your living room, and you'll get all that.
One
stuff.
way of many right now.
So I wanted to cover one bit of business before
Lay it on
before
me.
you read your thing there. One bit
Well,
of
I've
business
got a thing here ready to read.
is,
So
we almost at the start of the season or maybe early points in the season, we had to call out
A little
for
while back, yeah.
some, if people had a little extra cash and they enjoy the show or any of the shows Jupiter Broadcasting
you
do,
betcha.
maybe consider subscribing for the monthly donation, which you can find at the right hand of jupiterbroadcasting.com. Now, I think with times being tough for some people,
It's hard to
we've
do.
been having more and more people getting declined. The $2 or the $4 a month.
Kind of
is
didn't
going
have enough
through.
money in their PayPal
Which is,
account or those sorts of
no-
things. No big deal.
No
No
animosity.
judgment. No judgment,
animosity
guys.
from us, 'cause
no
it's-
judgment.
I feel that way sometimes too. But
I hear you.
if you got a little bit extra cash and you do want to support the shows, you enjoy the shows, you might consider signing up for that, because we've had about 6 in the last week drop off with declines, and so we're starting to kind of get below the cost covering
Yeah,
threshold.
we're moving back down there.
We're moving
so.
kind of in the wrong direction. So if you've been thinking about it, kind of been on the fence, it would be a great time.
Just
to do so.
head over to the website jupiterbroadcasting.com. It's on the right hand side, kind of near the top. There's a bunch of buttons there. You can click one, and then
Good call.
magic will happen.
Yep.
I love magic.
So let's pay the big bills, Brian.
All right, let's pay the big bills. The big bills are paid by this beautiful little company I like to call GoDaddy.com. This episode, specifically, is sponsored by GoDaddy.com, the world's largest web host and domain registrar. If you're ready to make an impact online, GoDaddy.com has got you covered. I was starting to say a completely different one there, and I got myself confused.
You've got years of
I've been
practice.
reading these for a while. Domain names as low as $1.99. Can you believe that? World-class hosting with unlimited disk space and bandwidth. Do-it-yourself website builders, dedicated servers, SSL certs, and so much more. Plus, as a Linux Action Show listener or viewer, enter promo code LINUX. That's LINUX. At checkout and save an additional
10%.
You get that's the blanket 10% one. That's just a good one.
Any
to use.
order, you get 10%. I also like to remind people we've got a Linux 20 offering. The Linux 20 gives you 20% off hosting.
Yep.
And,
That's a good one. It's just LINUX 20 is not a bad way to go. And there's also simple ones like Linux 1 LINUX 1 gives you $5 off if you spend $30. Just off of any order.
So you
Doesn't
can
matter.
kind of figure, you
can mix and
it's 10% more.
Choose the one you want.
So use Linux. Is $5 more. So use Linux 1. It's cool.
It's cool with us. Whichever one you want to use, we will appreciate it.
We really appreciate GoDaddy sponsoring the show.
Dude, GoDaddy is rocking. That's all I'm gonna say.
They are helping us out.
Yeah.
So all right, Brian, with the nods and the business and the runs Linux out of the way, I say let's do the news. I don't know what that was, dude.
What? I just said the song, man.
No, that wasn't the song, man.
That was a whole new it was a remix,
No,
dude. You don't like
Brian.
remixes?
No.
All right, everyone in the chat room, you heard the remix. Tell Chris it was a remix and get him off my case, guys.
No.
You heard it.
Brian,
you heard it.
Don't make the chat room agree with you, because they're just gonna be being nice to you if they do.
Oh,
And,
wow. So that's how they do the music. Boom, right there.
That's how.
Boom.
One of these days I should put that in as the music,
Yeah.
because I think that'd be great.
Remix is obviously superior.
I think
I agree.
I think I should put that in as the music.
I'm just saying.
I might do that.
By
If
popular
I remember.
demand.
If it doesn't make it in the final show, it's just because I forgot, not because.
All right.
All right, here we go, Brian. Are you ready, sir?
Nah. I'm just kidding.
All right, let's go. Here we go.
What's new in the news this week?
All right, Brian. Our top story on the news docket
This week?
for this week. Red Hat among one of the 100 best places to work in IT.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really cool. I like to go because we were kind of hard on Red Hat in our last.
Yeah.
Well, we weren't really hard on Red Hat so much as we were Fedora, but people.
Yeah.
People take it as being hard on Red Hat. So
Totally.
Yeah, there's the Computer World went out, and those guys, they ranked the
Best places to work.
Best places to work in IT. Now, we had a few others on the list. I think Red Hat came in at number 96, but that's still on the list.
Hey, that's still pretty solidly good.
Oh, no, number 95. Number 95.
Still on
it came
the
in number
list.
95.
Yeah.
You had a few others on there, but you know what? Good job, Red Hat, because
hey,
I like
that's
that.
good.
Yeah.
Hey, at least they're not like the worst place to work in IT.
Right.
That's a win.
I think we
right
know
there.
a few places that would make that list.
I know of at least one or two.
I think I've worked for 92 of them.
Yeah, I think I have.
It feels like that, at least. All right, Brian.
God, I don't anymore.
The next
Whew.
story on the news docket for this week.
Yes.
VirtualBox
Oh,
3.0 Beta 1 has been released.
Oh, yeah.
So we've recently kind of become VirtualBox converts. Before, like 9 months ago, we were like, VirtualBox is nice.
See, here's the thing with VirtualBox. VirtualBox does the job. It's done the job for quite some time now, but its UI is not that hot. I mean, let's be frank and honest about what it's good and bad at. The UI is not that hot. The way it handles your disks is annoying.
The manager.
Like it makes you, instead of just creating a new virtual machine, it makes you go through this thing where you create this
Once
disk,
you're set up,
and
though,
then
you don't really have to
only assign it. Ugh.
Once you're set up, though, you don't really have to manage that.
I know,
don't have to mess with it.
Well, unless you want to deal with like ISOs, even if you want
to
just
library.
if you want to just simply mount an
hear ya.
ISO CD like a distro that you download in a VirtualBox, you have to add it to this manager and then go through these multiple steps, and it's a pain in the butt, and it's very unclear how to do it. But that said, VirtualBox has been adding these features lately that, holy crap!
So
they are great.
The last big feature they added, in my opinion, is OpenGL.
Full OpenGL hardware acceleration.
Comp is in a VM.
And here's the thing, it ran on all hosts, so Windows, Linux, OS X.
Solaris.
And so I could run Compiz in whatever version of Linux I want to, for the most part, and it runs great.
There's a lot of people in the VirtualBox forum that's like, why are you guys focusing on things like 3D acceleration when I really need this thing fixed? And I agree, it's not always the most important feature, but if you're a couple of dudes that load a lot of distributions and you review stuff and you need to test stuff and you got to try stuff out, if you're a couple of guys like us, having the full-on interface is really nice for testing. It's really nice for doing reviews.
Yeah.
Because in order to, like, if I wanted to comment on how Ubuntu 904's comp is, how easy it was to get going, I'd have to always load it on physical hardware. And eventually you start running out of boxes.
And here's the thing, is most... And if you go to Linux conventions, and you have for the last few years, you know this already. Most Linux developers don't run Linux. Most Linux developers are running like Macs, and a few of them have Windows machines, but for the most part, they're like Mac users. So we need to make sure that our virtual environments, that are the environments they're using to actually do the development in, as closely match raw hardware as possible. So if we want the out of the box, OpenSUSE and Ubuntu experience to be with Compiz turned on,
for us suckers that are running it as our desktop,
we want the developers to actually be running that environment and that setup.
Time to open a can of balls. All right, so
this is good. What this means is that more devs are going to be using it this way, the way that users use them, and the result is Linux just gets better.
Yeah, and so now they've added in the 3.0 beta, they've added support for DirectX 8 and 9. Kind of after perusing the forum, it sounded like the 9 stuff's a little shaky, but this is beta 1.
Yeah.
But it sounded like it's going to look crash for some people.
That's okay. That's okay.
On top of that, they've also, this is pretty cool, if you have one of the newer CPUs out there that is not just VT, but it's VTX or AMD V. Yep. It might be AMD VX. The one where your virtualizer can communicate in a whole new way to the processor. You can do a couple of cool things. You can
get pretty trick.
You can give your guest CPU 32 virtual CPUs. Your guest host, your guest VM.
And you don't have to have 32 CPUs.
No, which is awesome.
You can just pretend.
The other thing that they've
done... I always want to pretend that I have that many CPUs.
The other thing they've done is they've done a ton of great work with USB in VirtualBox. USB 2.0 should be kind of rocking now. They've got some nice things in the works for automating simple installs and things like that. They've done some fixes. If you're running Windows 7 as your host OS, it'll run better now under Windows 7.
Yep.
So it's
just kind of good across the board.
A lot of Solaris improvements too. So it's still very beta though. If you're running VirtualBox 2 something, you might want to stick there for a while. If you're interested in giving them feedback, then you might want to jump in. I'll link to it in the show notes. But I gotta warn you, it is a bit on the crashy side.
It is beta. It's beta, and it's beta 1.
I did have it lock up my box, and I had to hard reset. But
and don't make the mistake. If you're a constant VMware VirtualBox user, don't make the mistake of running multiple virtualizing packages at the same time.
Right.
You will get awfulness to happen, and your whole system comes down.
And this is something I've been telling. We've have a lot of people write into the show or leave forum posts and they're like, I've done updates and now this is broken. And like I'm so frustrated because part of me wants to play with the latest stuff, but the other part of me wants to have my machine turn on in the morning. Right. And so what I've been suggesting to people...
This is the way to do it.
Yeah, go with like a long-term support. Go with a CentOS desktop. Go with an Ubuntu long-term support, SLED, whatever.
Set it up just right.
Get it just right, and then if you want to play with the new stuff, VirtualBox, or you can use VMware. But if you go VirtualBox, the nice thing is you can still play with the 3D stuff too.
Exactly. And you got to play with 3D stuff. What's the point if you don't have 3D stuff?
I agree.
That's what I got to say.
All right, Brian. The next story on the news docket for this week: Amazon, the Linux-powered ebook reader Kindle.
Oh, right.
Remember, we've done a review on that. So the Free Software has made a comment on what they think of the fact
the Free
that
Software Foundation.
Yes, the Free Software.
FSF.
Yeah, the Free Software.
Yeah.
The Free Software Foundation made
the
comment.
Internet's just talking about it.
Has made comment about what they think about this device. If there's one thing the Kindle has, is that's mind share. I mean,
and the Kindle is awesome.
People know about it.
love my Kindle.
And it's funny. I really was impressed with the Kindle when we reviewed it. There's an old in-depth look on that. I was really impressed. And when I started to review it, or like when I was thinking about the Kindle, I'm like,
you didn't even know.
This is gonna be dumb.
Yeah.
This is gonna be dumb.
And you didn't know it was running Linux either.
No, I didn't. I'm not gonna read my books on a screen. That's dumb. Well,
yeah,
it's.
I feel the same way.
I'm such a convert. The screen, it's easy on that digital electronic ink stuff.
The e-ink, the e-paper stuff.
It's so nice, man.
It's great.
Having having like 8 days of battery is crazy nice. Being able to download a book over the air, which you don't have to pay for, like the subscription, and the fact that it can. It's so easy to get like Creative Commons free books on there, and
it really is.
It's so nice.
Yeah, there's lots of good manuals out there.
You can buy the Kindle books that are restricted to your device.
You can do both,
or you can use the plethora of.
I've bought a few books from the Kindle store, but for the most part, I've gotten stuff like from the Gutenberg Project, like old works of things.
It's so awesome, dude.
I love, old Arthur Conan Doyle, like Sherlock Holmes mysteries. So now I've got the complete works legally on my Kindle everywhere I go.
And if you're an audiobook fan, it'll also play those. You can get you can have your textbooks and your audiobooks on one device.
That's just really nice.
If you're thinking about buying a Kindle and you want to help us out, if you buy it through jupiterbroadcasting.com/store, that's an Amazon store, but we get 14% on Kindle sales.
Yeah, it's great.
So
it's great.
It does hook
seriously.
All right, so the Free Software Foundation, they were asked, what do you think about the fact that this really popular device that's kind of maybe going to be a trendsetter?
I would guess that they would love it.
Yeah, what do you think about it running Linux? So here is a quote. This is from I'm looking for the name here of the guy, but they didn't say it. But this will sum it up for you. The Free Software refers to the Kindle as the swindle. Because you know how the Free Software likes to do that.
Oh,
they
Lord.
like to do that.
Are you serious? Yeah. They didn't actually say that, did they?
They did, dude. It's good that because Amazon, by the way, the backstory is Amazon just recently contributed back the code.
Swindle?
They've contributed back the code that they have modified for the Kindle. It's good that Amazon is complying with the license and not behaving illegally, but it's hardly something to be praiseworthy. Which
is it? You're either complying with the license or you're not.
Yeah,
so if you don't comply with the license, Free Software Foundation comes down on you and beats you like a horse that misbehaved.
But dude, that's the game you play for using that license.
Or you go ahead and you completely comply with it, and then they come on down to you and they make up really cheesy nicknames for your device, like the Swindle. Come on.
So John Sullivan, so this is the guy saying this. He said Amazon benefited from the freedoms passed on to them by other free software authors.
Totally did, yeah.
So they benefited from the freedoms by other authors, and I lost my point because you actually agreed with that, so it threw me off.
Yeah, they totally did.
So Amazon benefited from the freedoms passed on to them by other free software authors, and that benefit comes with an obligation to convey that same freedom to their users to share alike.
Wait, he had me for a second there. But that end doesn't actually make any sense.
Well, okay, I'll read it again.
It's like a statement that almost makes sense, but
Amazon
doesn't actually.
benefited from the freedoms passed on to them by other free software authors.
Agreed.
And that benefit comes with the obligation to convey that same freedom to their users to share alike.
So, that comes with the obligation to adhere to the license, which in this case is GPO, which means they give the code back to the project. That's what the obligation is.
He's instead of saying the word license, he's saying the word freedom. So that's all he's doing there. That comes with the obligation to convey the same freedom to their user.
But it wouldn't be the same freedom.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's not logically the same thing.
Because the user isn't doing the code modification.
That's like saying, here, I've got this field full of grass. Mm-hmm. You know what? You've got a horse. Feel free. I need to mow it anyways. You can have the horse eat the grass for free. No problem. Okay, so the guy goes and his horse feeds off of that grass.
Okay.
And then the guy comes around and says, you're really obligated to give me your horse. Or let me ride your horse whenever I want to now. Doesn't make any sense. It's like illogical. It's like you've got an asshole neighbor
awesome.
who then tricks you.
Man,
into
I wish I
something.
had a camera on your face because that was a great that facial expression of yours was so awesome.
I mean, am I
That was
right?
so-
I
yeah,
mean,
you're right.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and
Here's the thing: Amazon completely complied with the license, and the point of the license, as dictated by Stallman and the FSF, is to force people to adhere to the code of conduct that
I
they
gotta
want.
say, dude,
and Amazon does.
Amazon knew.
So how can you not?
Dude, Amazon knew what ball game they knew they were walking into the GPL ball game when they stepped out on the field. They didn't have to go with Linux. They could have gone BSD and then never shared the
And
code.
it would have worked just fine.
So
here's the really crappy part.
The Free Software Foundation installment is not forcing them to use GPL code.
No, they're not.
So
at
if
all.
they don't like the terms of the license, they didn't have to use it. Obviously, they looked at it and said, you know what, there's enough benefit here that we're willing to do that. Or it wasn't even a concern for them. I don't really have a problem. I don't have a single issue that the GPL requires people to give back code because
me neither. That's the license.
Okay.
That's the whole
all right.
point.
So we're in agreement on that. Okay. So I do think it's a little snotty, especially to call it swindle.
No. You know what it is? It's an a-hole dick move
Yeah.
to say, here's the license. Adhere to this license.
Right.
And then the company goes, you know what?
Okay.
That's a great idea. I will.
Yeah.
And then you go, wow, you're such a jerk. You adhered to my license? I mean, come on. Come on, guys. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
There are plenty of battles for the Free Software Foundation to fight right now. Why are you fighting against people who agree with you and adhere to everything you say completely? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
All it does is prove to everyone. No, sorry, I need to take that back. Prove is not the right word.
I'm
here.
not sure if
It makes it seem as though the Free Software Foundation is irrelevant. Because what you're coming out and saying this, is this going to change Kindle sales? No. Does this change the legality? No. Does this change anything that you said this? No. So why the hell are you saying this other than to make yourself look dumb? Knock it off, guys.
Yeah,
you're making Linux look bad. I mean, seriously, Chris just made a good point. If Amazon knew what they were getting into when they used Linux and the kernel and a bunch of other packages on the Kindle, they were GPL.
Yeah.
And Chris made a good point. They knew the minefield they were getting into by using GPL code. Why didn't they just go with BSD or something along those lines?
So they obviously they weren't worried about it.
Obviously weren't worried about it. So, but basically this does a couple of things. One, it makes, a lot of companies look maybe a little bit more at BSD and not at Linux, which if you're, Stallman and the FSF, that's just the wrong direction.
Really quickly, before somebody gets mad at us, the only reason we're interchanging GPL license and Linux is because from a general audience standpoint, from a corporate standpoint, they interchange that.
They do.
They associate the behavior of Free Software Foundation with Linux. Despite how much the Free Software Foundation might not like that fact, that is the reality.
And here's the thing. The Free Software Foundation, though, claims complete ownership of Linux as a desktop operating system. It is. You
mean GNU Linux?
It is GNU Linux. They claim that. So if they're going to claim that, they need to step up and act like men.
Yeah, you don't get to have
not like little pansy boys. Honestly,
you don't get to claim that your GNU software is what drives that desktop. But we're not associated with it. We don't speak. You don't get at one point say, yeah, we pretty much own that. I mean, yeah, there's that kernel, but we could replace that. And
they never have. They have the stupid GNU herd kernel.
Yeah, I know.
That's never freaking gone anywhere.
But then at the other time when guys like us sit here and we're interchanging Free Software Foundation GPL, they get pissed. And it's like, dudes, which way do you want it?
Seriously.
So we're giving it to you the way.
Yeah.
So okay, all right. Here's the thing: is the reason why I think you and I, the core reason both of you are kind of like, guys, knock it off, is because companies like Amazon and Apple and Joe's brick store, they hear this stuff and they're like, man, these GPL guys, these Free Software Foundation guys, they're just a bunch of hippies that hate corporations.
Yep.
And it's like, we need to work with these people and be like, hey, that closed off walled garden Microsoft stuff. Yeah, so they got that, right? But check this stuff out over here. But when we're doing this inflammatory and we're calling people's products swindle and we're
come on,
they have some other really jank nicknames for commercial products that use Linux.
Yeah.
It's like we're just turning people away and we're saying, yeah, please use a Windows embedded device on your next thing.
Yeah, seriously, that's what it's saying. And when Amazon came out with the Kindle, when they first announced it, we were stoked. And when I say we, I mean every Linux user, because we're like, dude, huge, one of the biggest companies on friggin' earth, really, in terms of mind share, is coming out with a Linux-powered product, and they're being very, not only open about it, they're telling people this runs Linux.
Yeah.
So it does nothing but help bolster mindshare of Linux, help give people a better impression of Linux, and then the Free Software Foundation comes over and just craps all over it.
Yeah.
But they wait a while. They don't do it immediately. They come out later on, and it's lame.
I agree, dude.
It's just one more time, and the Free Software Foundation needs to shut down.
You think so?
I'm done with
you gotta
this.
have somebody.
No, you don't. You really, really don't. The only purpose of the Free Software Foundation is to be the governing body responsible for the dictation of the license. Now, they don't tell projects they have to use the license. They simply create a license and make it available.
True.
So you can just as easily have a consortium of individuals, organizations, and companies come together, which is really kind of what you have anyway, completely regardless of the Free Software Foundation, and create GPL version 4, GPL version 5. And then when you've got all these versions of GPL that are hopefully at least mostly compatible with each other, all the various individual projects can use whichever one they want. The Free Software Foundation is irrelevant to the process, so they are not needed. All they do is come up with stuff like the swindle, and then they stage really weird, stupid little boycotts of like iPhones. Oh, let's go down to the Genius Bar at the Apple Store and start making fun of them. It's like, you guys are retarded.
The thing is,
you're giving us all a bad name.
And this applies to the iPhone too. But in terms of the Kindle, I think one of the reasons the Free Software Foundation kind of kicks them in the nuts is because it is a device that is capable of supporting DRM content. And you don't have to use DRM content. It is up to the user.
In fact, I think
they're pissed that the user has the choice.
I went nearly 5 months of having a Kindle before I had anything even remotely DRM related on there. And I did so because I'm like, you know what? I did so because the book came out. I really wanted to support the author. And I'm like, well, I'm either going to go to the store and buy it, or I'm going to read it on my Kindle. So I just bought it on my Kindle.
And let's talk about, so I think that's one reason that they give things like the Amazon Kindle and stuff a hard time, is because it has the ability to support DRM content, or it makes DRM content easy. But at the same time, you have to let users have the freedom to make the choice they want. If they want to buy DRM content, that's their choice. And for Amazon to not support that, I mean, I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me, because, like Ryan said, you can run it for forever with free free books.
There's no restrictions,
or throw your own stuff on there. And then the other thing is. One of the things that kind of has been brought up in this is Amazon, they've donated the code back, or they've given the code back, they've contributed back, and you look at it, so the Kindle is running, they've built all the stuff on there with GCC 4.1.2.
Yeah.
All right, well, so, the rest of the world's on probably GCC 4.4 and things like that.
4.4 is kind of a baseline right now.
And they made changes to an older version of BusyBox, and of course BusyBox is kind of old. And they made changes to an older version of Linux kernel.
Yep.
A lot of these changes are irrelevant. I mean, you look
totally.
You look at like the TiVo. I don't know if this is true for the Series 3, but the TiVo Series 2 is still on kernel 2.4.
Right.
So while these companies are taking the code and they're following the license and they're contributing it back, I got to imagine it's pretty irrelevant. So I went out.
Let's talk about this for a little bit. Yeah.
I went out and I did a search on Linux kernel mailing list. I was actually on a completely different thing, but I got on a tangent.
Yeah.
And there's discussions, and it's like, it sounds like a ton of this stuff just gets discarded because it's totally irrelevant by the time, because the companies, they'll Amazon will decide to make a Kindle 2 years ago, and they'll take code, they'll check it out, and then boom, that's their development.
Right. They take a snapshot in time, and they're not going to continually update.
And they're not pushing new kernels and new GCC out to
They don't need
Kindles.
to.
No.
They don't need to. Their hardware stays the same. They make it work, and they're done.
And then it's like a 5-year product or whatever, and then it just
and even then. The reality is, if you're creating a new piece of hardware and you need to take a specific version of a project, whether it's the Linux kernel or not, the odds of the newest, latest, and greatest kernel or project being the one that you want for your particular piece of hardware is actually kind of low. You're going to look around and say, well, maybe one of the earlier versions is going to work better. Maybe a side branch is going to work better. And so by the time you take that specific version and then you go in and apply your own patches to it, and then 2 years later, the fact that you submitted those changes back to the community actually is harmful to the community. You've actually caused problems by submitting the code changes you made.
Assuming if it gets incorporated, or just because it's administrative overhead to go through
it is administrative overhead. So
taking time.
Let's say
time vampire.
Let's just talk from the Linux kernel point of view.
Okay.
Let's say so the Kindle's got the kernel
2.6.2.0 something.
Old version, right?
Yes.
So old version we're not using anymore.
Like we're on
they make changes
on
to that apply, for the most part, only to the Kindle.
Right. So maybe some sort of power management, but for an older,
but for
like
an old
the
Kindle.
ARM CPU or whatever it has.
Right.
In there. So yeah, okay.
And it's an older version of the kernel, so enough changes had been made since then that it really
some of
doesn't
those changes
make
might
sense.
even be compatible.
So now Amazon, you know what? It's trying to be a good citizen. It's saying, here's the code changes we made.
Right.
We're complying with the license. We're doing everything you guys want us to do. But now we've got it back in the community. Now what do we do with it? Well, now someone has to sit down and instead of writing new code, instead of fixing bugs in our current line of the project, they have to go in and analyze all of the patches.
Yeah, because some
and
of
the
it might
changes.
still apply, but some of it won't.
The odds of them still applying are low.
I think I was kind of.
And even if they still do apply, the odds of them being accepted into the current line of the project are slim. So you end up with people spending their time reviewing garbage. And it's not garbage, it's worthwhile stuff. But in terms of what we need to do for the current project, it's kind of garbagey. They're doing that instead of, fixing bugs, making things better, pushing forward to the future, etc. So actually, in actual practice, in these sorts of cases, the fact that the GPL is enforced in any of these cases is actually detrimental to the open source concept of software.
I guess you have the option. I guess you have the option of just discarding, and then when you hear something,
you just
really
ignore
awesome,
it.
Use it.
That's what it comes down to. You just have to ignore everyone.
I didn't see anything in terms of the Kindle, though. I kind of got the impression that a lot of it gets discarded. But there's a code. There's been a bunch of code over the years that's been. It's now submitted by Cisco, but it was by Linksys back in the day for some of their routers, and it looked like a ton of it was just meh. Left.
Yeah.
Like it's in a repository somewhere.
But it's never going to go anywhere.
It never went anywhere because they're like, it's old. That's
too much work.
That's way old. We've either worked around that, we've fixed that, or that just doesn't work that way anymore.
Right. Times
so
change.
It's an interesting dynamic.
Times change fast.
It's an interesting dynamic that I hadn't really considered until I started doing that digging.
Now, I just want to preface everything, or postface everything, by saying I actually really like the GPL license, especially version 2. Big fan of it. But in certain cases, it does seem to get a little silly, especially when the Free Software Foundation starts giving people a hard time for following it.
One cap on the whole FSF thing is, they staged the anti-DRM protests with the iPhone.
Yeah.
And there was never really a press release that said, good job, Apple, when Apple went DRM free in the iTunes Store.
Nope.
Now, I know there's still other
negativity.
issues. There's other issues, but it seems like if we're really going to spend a lot of money and energy and time, like they gave out pamphlets and they had people that were going to be at the Apple Store to let people know about the evils of the iPhone, which we didn't hear any of that for this iPhone launch that we just had on Friday of this recording, so yesterday.
Nope.
So obviously they don't care as much now. Because the other one, remember when the 3G came out, they had protesters on site.
Oh, yeah.
And they're giving people, remember they came out with this Word document that you could download, and it was a list of, or it had in PDF, which is also not a free format. There was a list of things to go in and harass the Apple Store genius with.
Yep.
We don't have that anymore, but there's never been a, hey, you know what? Yeah, they dropped DRM.
Hey, good on them.
Now they're still using,
You would think they'd just come out and say, hey, the Free Software Foundation is successful. We've managed to push Apple to do something, or at least something, even if they twisted the whole thing their way.
Yeah.
But they don't even do that. So I'm like, I feel like they just get pissed off and then they drop the ball.
And of course now the complaint would be that they're still using. I think they use AAC or whatever, but it's not an open source format that the audio is in. But I kind of think that's a funny complaint when your list of things to harass the Apple genius about was distributed in PDF format, which is also a patent encumbered format.
Good Lord.
You know what it's like?
I know.
It's like my brain collapses on itself.
We talked about it a lot when they were doing it.
I just hate that we're so negative, and then when something good happens, we don't do anything about it. But let's move the F on, because I do have some nice things to say. All right, Brian.
I want to talk about nice things.
The next story on the news docket, Fedora 11 is officially released.
Uh-oh.
So good job, guys. They have the new version of Fedora 11 out, and it's looking like a nice release. It's got a couple of minor things, but there's fixes in.
Yeah.
I'm going to just say it. I just said the Free Software Foundation say it. I'm going to say it. When Package Kit was originally out, I didn't like it. I felt like it was in the way. I didn't get it. The name Package Kit made me think it only had to do with RPMs. And now, you know what? I think Package Kit is a really nice piece of software.
You're totally right. I was kind of harsh on Package Kit too, and it's improved.
It's becoming.
And honestly, it's not just that it's improved. It's the purpose of it has become more clear.
It's clear, yeah, exactly.
To both the people using it and to us.
it's
not bad. I'm glad it's around.
I originally and I think it's because the name is package kit that I thought it only had to do with like a way to install packages and things like that.
Yeah, basically I thought it was nothing more than just an RPM manager.
And
I think more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, but I felt like in this release of Fedora 11. Now I'm still playing with Fedora 11, so I don't really have a lot of comments on that yet. But it's become a way that's really like they're using package kit in a way now that really clicks. Now my only criticism might be is I feel like this maybe should have been the version that shipped originally. But I understand they need to get it out there and have it worked on. And it's always a tricky situation because you have to draw that line. When do you put the code out there to get tested and get bug reports and get code, but then at the same time you don't want to put something out that's not fully ready yet. But I'm impressed. I like the way that it's integrated now, and you're seeing a lot of different advantages of that. So
that is nice.
Good job on these guys.
Kudos there.
Boot times are great.
Man, what is the deal with boot times though?
I'm so sick of hearing about boot times.
I just don't care. There's two things.
You know what?
If you're making a distro, two things. If you do this, I don't care. A new version of Firefox and faster boot times. If you do either of those things, I don't even want to hear about it because that's been the top two features of every distro release for like the last 3 years. For one, Firefox is kind of crappy now. For two, everything boots pretty fast. There's a certain point where it's like, okay, we shaved off another 3.2 seconds. I don't boot cold my machine all that often. You're not actually saving the day here.
I know.
This is not the early 80s.
You know, it's funny. This is how geeky I am. So my grandpa has a netbook, a little Aspire netbook, and he's loving trying out Linux on it. He thinks that's the neatest thing ever. And he's like, the new Ubuntu 9.04 really has really great boot times, and Fedora got really great boot times. I'm like, Grandpa, do you really give an F at all? Do you give one S about boot times? And I went into this whole rant at dinner the other night, and he's like, well, yeah, I'm really paranoid, so I turn all my systems off at night. I'm like, you don't sleep? No, everything. I even flip the power strip switch.
Wow.
Every night? Yeah.
Wow.
I'm like, so boot times actually matter.
They actually matter to him.
So there's people out there.
Right.
But you and I, we think about it like my machine's either on or sleeping.
I got my netbook here, and honestly, this little guy, I'm just going to close the lid, and it's going to go
That's
to
what
sleep.
I do, too.
I mean, I'll turn it off. I'll full-on restart it every couple days. But, I mean, come on. In those moments, that's when you have me time. You can sit back and center your chi. You know what I'm saying?
So Fedora 11 includes...
Chris just ignored the whole centering the chi thing.
The chi, Brian.
What? You don't like the chi?
The chi's
you
fine.
don't want to be centered?
Chi's fine. Chi's fine.
I feel like you don't care for the chi. That's what I'm feeling
No, it's all right. It just...
Everyone out there who's upset at Chris's dismissal of the chi, write him in.
Yeah. So one of the things that Fedora 11 ships with, but it's not on by default, which I don't understand quite. Maybe there's a reason. But it doesn't list a reason here in the release notes. Is Presto, and Presto lets you use Delta RPMs to update your distro. And what the Delta RPMs are, it's just the changes so like if you're doing a security patch, it's just the changes. You don't got to re-download all of MySQL if you're just updating a component of it. And so Presto uses these Delta RPMs to just update. So instead of having a 15 meg download, you have a 500 kilobyte download. You do have to turn Presto on though. So you have to install the yum-presto package. So yum install yum-presto. And then you can utilize the feature. And they're saying like you get between 60 and 80% package reduction sizes with this stuff. So
that's not bad.
That's going to make updates a lot easier.
That's solid. That's very good.
Yeah. So we have a new kind of implementation of the bus system. It's called iBus. And my understanding is if you use any kind of Asian languages, you're going to really care about that feature. And I guess it's something that people have been kind of giving OpenSUSE and Ubuntu a hard time about. They've got that in here now. And the other thing that's really neat, and I'm glad to see, if you're one of the dudes or gals or do-gal combos that has one of those machines like a laptop or something, does your HP Mini have the fingerprint? The fingerprint.
No, it doesn't.
I know a couple of netbooks do, and I'm always looking at that. And System 76 implemented in their laptops a long time ago their own way to do this, and now Fedora is shipping this. It's they've done a ton of work on it, and they're trying to get it so you can swipe your finger to log into your machine.
That's cool.
I worked for a company that actually forbid any hardware that had laptop or any kind of fingerprint integration because it was a combination of man and machine sign of the beast, and so they forbid it. I bet you know what company I'm talking about.
That's ridiculous.
You know what company.
That's the most ridiculous thing ever.
Yeah. David, if he's listening, knows what company I'm talking about too. So there you have it, Brian. New fancy stuff.
Bit right there.
You've got extended 4 file system. You've got automatic font installation, which we talked about in the last episode. One nice thing, if you are rocking one of those PowerPC chips still, Fedora's
still supported.
They're giving you some love, guys. So
still supported.
Oh, or the PS3, you could also do it there. But nice box. It's a nice release.
Really, if you're doing the PS3 thing, you run a Fedora.
Yeah, I mean, think so. Or really Yellow Dog, but Yellow Dog's based on Fedora.
Yellow Dog's based on Fedora.
Well, here's a little tidbit. So I'm loving this because just keep this in perspective with some of the bigger operating systems that are about to come out in the fall.
Yeah.
Recommended processor speed for the text mode is 200 megahertz.
Yeah, whatever. Text mode doesn't matter.
Graphical though, no, I agree. Graphical mode, doesn't matter in the sense that if you're going to run it as your full
as your
and want to browse the web at all.
Yeah.
Recommended for graphical is 400 megahertz, Pentium 3 or Pentium 2 or better. Sorry.
Nice.
That's pretty good, dude.
Yeah.
Minimum RAM 192 megabytes. Not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad.
Recommended RAM is only 256.
Which
I'm thinking that's shenanigans.
Yeah.
Recommended is 2 gigs.
Yeah.
All right. Minimum,
seriously, dude.
Yeah, seriously. If you're running Linux, I don't care if it's Red Hat. I don't care if it's Slackware. I don't care if it's Arch. You're running at least 2 gigs. And if you're not running 2 gigs,
they're recommended, not minimum, but recommended.
No. If you got a netbook here, right?
Yeah.
Netbook, 2 gigs.
Yep.
Bump it up.
Yep.
Come on, guys. Get with the program. It's like seriously like $20 to get it to like 2 gigs.
Bought my wife an MSI Wind back when MSI was saying that upgrading the RAM voided your warranty. They rescinded that. But I bought that. I did not even power the machine on. I popped the bottom off and
get that RAM
upgraded
out
it
of
to
there.
2 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my AAA.
I got it off Newegg on sale, $15.
See, this is what I'm saying, guys.
You know what? I will skip lunch for a day.
One day of not going to McDonald's, and you now have 2 gigs of RAM. So if anyone, here's the thing, on all the software I release, right? Mm-hmm. If anyone emails me like, oh, it's kind of slow, and I ask them for their system configuration, and it's like, oh, I've got 512 megs. I'm like, okay, you really shouldn't be buying software. You should be buying RAM.
Yeah.
You've got your priorities all wrong, mister. I will give you a refund.
Yeah.
Take that money.
Go buy RAM.
Go buy RAM. Next month, come and buy my software and be really pleased that it runs super fast now.
No kidding.
Good Lord.
All right, Brian. Next story on the news doc that I put on here
just
for
one.
you. Just for you, Brian.
Here's a good one.
We talked about it a long time ago. Clutter 1.0 reaches the Release Candidate 1 milestone.
Nice. I actually don't have a whole lot to say about this in terms of big news, other than this is a big moment.
I got a really cool thing, which is our next news story.
Okay, hold on.
I'm waiting.
Hold on. So Clutter, of course, if you don't know what Clutter is a nice graphical, not just animation, but animation is a big part of it. It is a graphical toolkit. It's great. It's got nice OpenGL acceleration on the back end. It's very nicely designed.
Can I tell you?
As it hits 1.0, I think we're going to see a lot more apps using it.
In that Moblin OS put out by
yes,
Intel?
Intel's Moblin OS uses Clutter. The next version of the Maemo devices from Nokia is using Clutter for the UI. Yep. Clutter is being used in a lot of places, in a lot of ways, and I think, honestly, Clutter is going to quickly become one of the key features of Linux devices and potentially the desktop as well.
It's a fantastic GNU licensed, or GPL licensed, GPL2 licensed toolkit to make 3D accelerated.
It's awesome.
Now, here's what's exciting. This ties into the next news story. They're kind of a combo.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Clutter 1.0 RC1 introduces support for OpenCL. Yeah. OpenCL, if you don't know about it, it is it was originally kicked off by Apple, but ATI, Nvidia, and a bunch of other companies all jumped in. OpenCL is an open standard to basically send math jobs to your GPU.
Actually, OpenCL wasn't kicked off by Apple, but that's a different topic.
Well, okay. You mean you have to argue with Apple then, because they swear it's all them.
I don't know if you ever noticed, but I argue with Apple all the time.
Anyways, I just think that's awesome. And
no, it's way awesome.
So you're like, but Chris, OpenCL on Linux, I thought that's an OS 10 Snow Leopard thing.
But wait a second.
NVIDIA.
Chris, what's the next one?
Next story on the news docket, Brian. NVIDIA is privately testing an OpenCL Linux driver. And back in May, they kind of released on the DL that they're going to work on this. And now it's out in testing. And they're also making one for Windows. So Windows users, you're not left out.
Yeah.
You with your DirectX compute, you're not left out.
Your arrows.
So it's a 32-bit and 64-bit driver. It comes with sample code, so you can write applications to use it. And this is kind of, I really believe, going to be one of the biggest deals for 2010.
Lord, yes.
Because
huge.
The benchmarks show that if you've got a really math-intensive or really anything where you need to compute something in multiple parallel sessions at once, because these, the NVIDIA 8 series, 8000 series and up, to the latest GTX 2s and all those kind of things, they have so many incredible amounts of the ability to do multiple parallel processing jobs at once.
Beefy little cards.
And they're not good chips to do general purpose CPU computing. That's what
but you offload some of your tasks to them, and then you can keep cramming.
And what it is, and a lot of us, because the 8 actually might even be the 7 series NVIDIA cards have been around for 3-4 years ago. So a lot of us have these, and it works in ATI cards too. I just don't know what where the ATI
where
cards
the status is,
but
on the
it's been in there
yeah.
for a while too. I don't know what the Linux driver for ATI is, but the cards themselves have supported it for a while.
But NVIDIA,
what this means
it's coming.
What this means is you can have an application, and without any other changes, on no hardware upgrades, anything in your machine, all they do is rev their app so that it takes advantage of OpenCL. Boom, you have got incredible performance.
Massive performance
And
increase.
as a guy who encodes audio, encodes video, edits video.
This is huge.
This is ginormous, Brian.
Huge.
And I would go so far to say, Brian, that it might be the biggest thing in 2010.
Oh, yeah.
Because you are unleashing this. Some of us have spent $500, $300 on our video card hardware, and we're really only using a fraction of it, and that's when we're gaming, if we game.
Right.
Or Compiz, which uses a tiny bit
fraction. You can run Compiz fluidly on the smallest of Intel graphics chips now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even
This is so exciting. AMD is working on a driver, a Catalyst Linux driver, that will introduce OpenCL support. No ETA on that yet, but so OpenCL, it's really going to hit the market in a big way when Snow Leopard ships.
Yeah.
And I am thrilled to see that we are already, it's very likely we will have a shipping driver by the time Snow Leopard ships. Linux will have a final released driver with OpenCL support. So we are not behind the ball at all on this, and it gives...
It's awesome.
And it's one, even if you're just looking at people, if some company wants to come along and say, that Linux desktop, we might be able to release our really high-end video editor for that and make some money.
Yep.
And now, they're going to be able to say, hey, and you know what? And this is the great part about OpenCL. It's a standardized set of APIs or whatever. I don't know what the exact term is to work against, but my understanding is if you program for OpenCL on Windows or Mac OS X or Linux, it's the same.
No, it's the same. It's the same code. It's basically a C. It's a C-like language, and you create those routines in OpenCL.
That is so awesome.
It's great.
So I'm really glad we're not going to be left behind, because I'll be honest with you, Brian. I've been a little concerned lately. There's been several different benchmarks that have come out, and there is also, one of the other things in Snow Leopard is they're making a huge fuss about Grand Central Dispatch to take advantage of 4-core and above systems, really, and dual cores too. But a lot, you can't even buy today. If you buy a Core i7, you're getting a quad core.
You really are, yeah.
And so Microsoft, they have in the NT kernel, they have NT Executive, and NT Executive is not the most advanced, but it is. You can still send it and have it distribute your process, your different jobs for your application processes amongst the different CPU cores. And Apple's bringing they're bringing Grand Central Dispatch, and we don't really have that on Linux. You can write applications for multi-core,
right?
But there's
no centralized. Messaging framework and everything in place.
And on Linux today, if this is my understanding from the reading I was doing, if you write, say you write KDN Live, and you have to write different conditions for different CPU configurations. So you have to say on a single proc, I'm going to handle my mini sub processes this way. On a quad proc, I'm going to do it. I'm going to spawn this. Right, because
not entirely.
I'll give you an example. Say you're applying 3 filters, and they all have to render when you hit the preview. Now, how does the KDN Live developer know if I'm going to be able to support that on 4 CPU cores?
No, you ignore the fact that the CPU cores exist entirely. You just create when it is possible individual threads for each individual computational process. Now, those threads, depending on the framework you're using, depending on the language you're using, those threads might be forced to be on the same processor, or they might be able to be distributed amongst multiple cores or processors. But what depends entirely is.
And Grand Central Dispatch is not just like it's part of the OS 10 kernel.
It's not just threading.
It's also an extension
it's
of what's the Xcode when you write an Xcode? What language is it?
Objective C.
It's an extension of the Objective C language,
right?
And so it's two parts, but we don't have anything.
Well, our problems come from the fact that if you're writing, let's say, a GTK application,
right?
You really just got a UI that's one thread. And this is what it really comes down to. It's very difficult to have
KDN Live, written in Qt. I'm
threads.
using KDN Live because I think that's probably one of the better video editors on Linux right now. They're written in Qt, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's single. I don't know if that's single thread bound.
I actually don't know either.
I'm gonna guess. It's probably not.
No, it's not single threaded, but yeah.
Let's for the sake of argument, let's say it's not. If I'm the KDN Live developer, I cannot in my research determine a way that I can easily write in the sense that Grand Central Dispatch is to have not only have process. Here's what I learned is if you spawn a process and it's a filter that has to do this thing, but
sure.
It needs it's part of its work is dependent on another process that's on a separate processor,
right?
And it can't kick off until this one can supply it with data.
Semaphores and everything is for.
So this process has to supply this process with data, separate processors.
Yeah,
there's like no inherent way for them to communicate.
That's not true.
You have to code that though,
right?
Yeah.
And that's how it's always been.
But that sounds like a ton of work.
It is a ton of work.
And Grand Central Dispatch will say,
and you
can flag and say, okay, let this process know, and Grand Central Dispatch will be like, okay, you can go now. And
don't really think about it in terms of processors. Processors are irrelevant.
Okay.
It can be one processor or a gajillion. 32. It doesn't really
42.
matter. It's just threads. Okay. That's all we're really talking about. Once you have multiple operations that can be done in individual threads, then those can be, kind of spread out amongst the various cores and processors. Okay. That's all that matters. So communication between threads is notoriously tricky because if you have two threads going, keeping them in sync
and that's where we
see
a lot. Now, am I correct? And that's what we've seen with Microsoft. Some of the cause of the buffer overrun vulnerabilities, like if you compromise, like if you write something so that the processes have to be able to communicate with each other, and then you own this process, then and it has the right, and if it has the right privilege level, you can then own the other stuff.
Well, when you're talking about buffer overrun,
it's not like,
I mean, you're more referring to a predefined chunk of memory that's sitting in a specified address space, and then there's
so that's a totally separate thing.
And then you're writing into the memory, and then you go too far, and you're running into separate pieces of memory.
Oh, okay, okay, so that's a separate deal. But it just seems like, my thought is...
No, I'm with you.
It seems like NT has the executive, which accomplishes a lot of what Grand Central Dispatch does. And you have Grand Central Dispatch, but we didn't have that on Linux. And then I was getting kind of bummed because I'm like seeing OpenCL and DirectX Compute, and Windows is going to have OpenCL. I'm like, oh, man. I was getting bummed because I'm like envisioning like GCC with a OpenCL accelerator, and I'm envisioning, the OGG encoder with an open...
Right.
Dude, right?
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. Totally.
Imagine if you could, in Banshee or Rhythmbox or ARMRock, click a button and it will convert your entire library to OGG, but your CPU stays pretty much idle, and your GPU just sits there and chews away on it.
See, this is what I'm talking about.
Wicked, right?
Seriously.
Or if you want to patch the Linux kernel and rebuild, and you do -- OpenCL and it sends some of the math work to the GPU.
Oh, I know.
I mean, you're increasing speed, and you're getting more bang out of your current hardware setup.
Right.
If you have a video card from the last 4 years.
Which, if you don't, come on, you're not that nerdy.
I think this is awesome. So glad to see NVIDIA doing this. Glad to see ATI's doing this.
It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal.
I don't know how the open source, like the Novu driver. I don't know what they're doing as far as this goes. But I will tell you this:
probably nothing.
If I buy a PC, you got to imagine $80 of the cost, $90 of the cost, depending on the machine, maybe even more. If you buy a pre-built machine. Is the video card.
Totally.
And if you go out and you buy a nice video card, you're going to drop at least $200.
So for sure.
You could. Now I've been looking. I was shopping for a video card.
And here's the thing, though. Even a video card that's really well going to take advantage of this is only going to be like $50-$60.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
Yeah.
I was looking today on Newegg for a nice video card, but not crazy nice, that supported this.
Yep.
$75.
Yeah, that's about what I spent on my current video card. And here's the crazy bit. It's incredibly fast, will be fully supported by this. It's going to run any game out there on the market, and it's fanless and silent. And I spent like $75 on it.
I got to be honest with you, Brian. It's going to have to take like the apocalypse to make me not want to use the NVIDIA driver at that point, if it supports OpenCL.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, just to get my $80 worth.
For sure.
So,
I hear you, man. Hey,
Brian, Bob's your uncle. Bob's your uncle.
With the uncle and the Bob and the whatnot? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, we got any more news?
Nope,
I think
Brian.
we do.
We do?
We do? We
What
don't
is
have
it?
any more news?
Well, we got some stuff for the next segment.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
All right, Brian. That's all the news for this week.
Man, we were all worried we might not have enough news.
Yeah. This isn't. I don't know.
What just happened?
See, VNC freaking is weird.
It
dude.
says it's 9 now. It went from like 50 some minutes to
Oh,
9.
there it is. So we're an hour in. No way.
Where's the hour?
Oh, I see.
What's 9?
That's just VNC not rendering. Remember what I was saying earlier today about VNC being junk?
Man.
See now if I go back in.
No, because look over there.
Oh, maybe that's just where the cursor is.
Oh, there we are. Okay.
So we're into an hour show.
Yeah, I know. We haven't even done our whining and moaning segment yet.
Wow. Maybe I should call L wife and see where she's at.
You can go for it. I'll talk with the peeps if you want.
I'll call her right here, so that way I don't have to leave. I hate to be rude and get off camera. You know, I'm just not that kind of guy, Brian.
You gonna Skype call her?
That's not my. Yeah, I'll Skype call the wife. I mean, I don't have mono. I don't have mono piped in. I don't have audio. I don't have audio piped in, but I have the speakers. I mean, they'll hear. So hopefully she doesn't say something about her vagina or something.
Yeah, that would be really embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll have to give a little disclaimer at the beginning of the next segment that we're going to talk about mono and Fedora, and if they don't want to hear it, they'll have to tune out. I thought, we keep it in a separate segment.
Ubuntu.
Oh yeah,
and
right.
Debian. And Debian.
I figure we keep it in a separate segment because I know people are getting a little tired of it. But the thing is, Brian, we got things
It's
to
important.
Say. All right, so I want my input to be the
microphone.
Yeah, there it is. I knew I wanted to change something. I just didn't know what. That wine's bugging me. She's like, I don't know this number. She's too busy shopping to answer the phone. I'm getting turned down by my own wife. How do you like that? All right. Well, I made the overture.
You tried. Let's just plow into it.
All right, we'll plow it. We'll just go through it. If they show up.
That's what happens.
All right. Ready for the next segment, sir?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay. And let me queue up the next. I think I am out of. No, I got one more. Okay, so this is the music. I always got to remember, I got to remember I got to leave a spot for the audio cue, and then I need to do us here. So, okay. Nicely done, Chris. Thank you, Chris. You are welcome, Chris.
Good job, Chris.
So, not gonna work? How's that? No? Oh, audio. Oh. Huh. I don't know if I should have been doing that. I put an audio. No?
Huh? Oh.
Do you see what I'm doing? Do you see what's going on there?
No, I wasn't watching.
Huh. All right. So I'm adding a track, but it's not. So I'm doing insert audio track, right?
Mm-hmm.
Audio track, yeah. And then it inserts a track, but I don't have the ability to change its input or anything like that. It's just stopping at track 6. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
See how these ones have these options here?
Can you use the scroll wheel while you're over those tracks over the
Scroll wheel?
Yeah.
No. It just scrolls the page.
But see how it.
Oh, it's zoomed?
Yeah.
Oh, you think they're zoomed?
I don't know.
I do not know either. I think maybe you're
There we
right.
go.
Yeah.
There we are.
Okay. So they were just. So I was able to
Wait.
somehow zoom just those
No.
tracks. Right?
They're still different.
No. Look, that's our last one right there.
Yeah.
And see this one added, and this one added.
Yeah, but see, they're different.
How so?
They're missing the middle drop-down box.
Oh, you're
for
right.
Master, yeah.
Now they have it. That's really weird.
That's really weird. Okay. But what's a little weirdness, right?
Usability for the lose.
For the lose.
Okay. And I'm ready when you are.
Oh, I'm ready. Let's go.
I'll intro this segment because I think you're going to talk a lot.
I'm not going to talk.
All right, Brian. So this segment, we wanted to give people a little bit of a warning.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Mono.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Fedora.
Yep.
We're going to talk about Ubuntu.
Yep. And Debian.
And do you see what it's doing? Look at the recorder.
You're not.
It's recording on the last track and on the new track that I just added. See that?
You know what I might almost do? Save, exit, come back in.
Yeah, dude. Seriously.
Something weird's going on.
Look, and they're separate deals, too. I think it's mono, and they're both armed. That's what it is.
Oh.
So this new track is set to mono, and then I have armed them. I got it. See, it's still armed. So it's actually doing exactly what it's supposed to.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Usability for the win.
Yeah.
Chris.
So
for the lose.
I just need to change it. It didn't apply the setting to all tracks like it's supposed to.
That's what happened.
So in the new tracks that I created, they got. So now I'll apply again. Oh,
Chris, smash!
Do you hear that? It sounds like a wife mobile. Or is that a helicopter?
Or a lawnmower.
Awesome. Well, if it is the wife mobile, the dogs will bark, and then we'll have a little dog bark action, but it's not too bad.
That's true.
All right, so turn off solo mode. Arm this.
Bow.
Did that? Why does that hum only introduce when I arm the record?
That's weird. But I like it. But it doesn't seem to be on the thing. Oh, yeah. Chris is now running back behind the camera here to look at why it was doing a weird thing. We'll be jumping back into the next segment.
There's no way for that to be possible. There's no audio out from that device.
No, I think it's just a hum through the headphones.
But the headphones are connected to the board. If I arm the recorder and headphones hum, then there's something coming from the M audio into the board.
Yeah.
The only thing connected to the board and the M audio is the master out.
Okay.
So I don't understand science.
Well, it's possible that she blinded you with science. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's possible. I have it on good authority that she can do that.
I don't understand how that's possible.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it happened. Maybe you checked the do something miraculous button. That's probably what you did.
Really beyond my comprehension. There's no audio out at all.
Yeah.
Nothing even hooked up.
Yeah.
The only spot there's a connection made to that board is where the plugs go into the master out. And these headphones connect to the board.
There should be like an X-Files I want to believe checkbox in the preferences that just does things that are almost supernatural in power.
Yeah, it seems to be what's going on.
Yeah. It helps people to believe in a higher power.
Well, let's roll with it. It doesn't seem to be in the recording, right?
Yeah.
You good to go? You good to go?
Oh, yeah, I'm good to go.
Okay. I'm going to intro it because your mouth is going to be running in this one.
I'm not gonna do that.
All right, Brian. I want to give people out there a little bit of a warning.
Mm-hmm.
In this segment, we're going to talk about Mono.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Fedora.
Oh, yeah.
And a little Ubuntu.
Yeah.
And we'll throw in a sprinkling of Debian.
Oh, yeah, we'll probably do
And if you are sick and tired of hearing about Mono,
that. You're probably going to want to tune out now. So I'm not normally one to say tune out of the Linux Action Show because why would you do that? But just the same, we're going to be talking about Mono.
Yeah, all right. So let's kick it off, Brian. There has been a lot of stuff going on in the blogosphere and a lot of different areas
It's
about
been
Mono.
happening.
Really, the Mono thing has always been the heat dial has always been around 6, and just recently Ubuntu came out and said on our next version we're doing Banshee. We're taking out Rhythm Box. We're doing Banshee. Banshee, of course, being mono based. And at the same time, Fedora decided they're taking out Tomboy. They're taking out mono for
Yanking
Fedora
it
11.
out. Yep.
So the heat really got cranked up to 11.
Yep. It's warmer now.
What do you think, Brian?
You want
Here's the
the
thing.
Unbiased Brian opinion?
Here's my general thing is we recently found out that Fedora took mono out.
Yep.
We
or is in the process of taking mono out.
Yeah.
So
it's under discussion that mono won't even be in the repos
right.
for Fedora 12.
So basically, this all kind of came to a head, or at least in part, with Tomboy. So there was a project that started that was a rewrite of Tomboy, or a Tomboy clone written in C++. Which I'm on the record as saying is the stupidest damned idea I have ever heard in my life.
Total waste of time.
But just the same,
better things to work
someone
on.
undertook it. You know what? I'll give that person the benefit of the doubt and say maybe he's a student at a university and just wanted a cool C++ project. And you know what? In that case, why not?
Yeah,
Total
but now
fun.
I got to hear about it all the time.
So, okay. So then Fedora's like, hey, okay, well, this new G-Note application, it's getting far enough along that it can almost replace Tomboy. So why don't we...
Side note, the G-Note application cannot import Tomboy notes. So if you have a nice catalog...
and the funny thing is it uses the same file format. Don't ask me. This G-Note thing is ridiculous. So here we go.
You know what was funny is I didn't realize what a literal port it is. There was an actual bug in Tomboy.
Yeah.
The same bug ended up in G-Note.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. So the idea is then Fedora says, well, you know what? Tomboy just takes up so much space, you guys. It just takes up tons of RAM.
This happened on the Debian. Debian, what do they call it? It's like a really mini version of Debian, a 1 CD version. This discussion happened there too.
Yeah. So this is going over. Tomboy, it's so big.
Because it drags in all these dependencies.
And now, when we're talking about Tomboy dragging in dependencies, what we're talking about is Tomboy uses mono.
Yeah.
So you have to have mono in order to use Tomboy. That's what they're talking about. They're
I
not
want to
saying
point something out,
Tomboy
though.
is big.
Now you do have to load. Like if you wanted to load G-Note, you don't have to load. You have to load all the GTK stuff.
Yeah, it's just
But
that,
you don't have
theoretically all GNOME desktops already have that.
Right. Now the Debian, I forget what the Debian little mini Debian is, but these guys were like, you're pulling in 40 megabytes worth of dependencies. And so somebody's like, well, wait a minute. All the dependencies should only be 14 megs. So somebody then looked at the packages and said, well, all of your packages have every language associated. They have all the debug symbols turned on.
Yep.
So your packages are hugely bloated. You're complaining about size, and then you don't look at the fact that you have this hugely bloated package.
Basically, what it is, it's people. They're
finding
complaining about size
the statistic to make their argument.
to make the case.
Yeah.
So the people are going around making the case that the reason they want to pull Mono and Tomboy out of Fedora is that it's a size thing. However, if you actually look at the information, if you actually listen to what they're saying, it is Chris just pointed out in very clear terms, it is obvious that they're either doing one of two things. One, they are lying and creating a new situation and creating facts to support them that are simply not true. Or two, they have no idea how to develop software, distribute software, or package software.
Right.
It's one of the two.
They're either incompetent or they're lying.
Correct. Now here's the thing. There has been good work that has come out of the Fedora team. No, not going to deny this. Very good work. And some work that, in fact, we have just lauded over and heaped praise upon in the past. But in this particular case, this is doing nothing.
FUD spreaders.
But causing, exactly, they're spreading FUD. They're spreading FUD like no one.
I want to point out.
FUD.
I think so. They're probably their core issue is they're afraid of Microsoft.
Yep.
Essentially sending out a patent Trojan into the Linux world that then they can after it takes over our desktops, they can then turn around and sue us all. Right now, Brian, isn't it true? I mean, the C language wasn't the C language originally owned by AT&T, but we still used it.
I don't remember who originally owned it, but yeah, it was.
There's so many examples of languages that have been owned by other companies and companies that are sue happy, like crazy sue happy.
Languages, concepts. Hell, the mouse was patented by someone. So here's the thing: C# is an open standard. End of story. Mono is a framework utilized by C# and other languages that can run off of that common language runtime.
If another company was putting out Mono, I don't think we'd have nearly the problem.
No, we wouldn't have the problem.
And
there really is.
There are concerns, and I'm not saying I don't want to get in the position where people think we're claiming that Mono was without any legal troubles. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But I do know that it has been the history of Linux, Unix, the computer industry, that these things that get out there as standards or quasi-standards get adopted and get used. I mean, almost all of the languages we have today at some point were either originally or were. I mean, GNU, every GNU tool originally was copied directly off of, not from code by code, but inspired from and taken from closed Unix utilities that were either developed by Bell or AT&T or whoever. And we are built on a foundation of that. Now, we've re-engineered them, but Mono is an open source implementation of the C sharp standard.
Yes.
And it's,
well, in part, but yes. And exactly. Exactly.
I don't see how it's any different.
It is not any different, other than the fact that this, in this particular case, is more obviously okay because the C# is an open standard. It's not just something common that every computer uses. It's literally an open, registered, ratified standard.
And Poulter in the chat room points out that C# is an ECMA standard,
exactly,
but the ASP stuff is not.
Right. So, but I mean, the language itself is. And here's the thing. Here's what it really comes down to.
I thought this was funny. Joe in the chat room points out that if you're really worried about Microsoft patent Trojan horses, you better turn off your virtual desktop support because Microsoft has a patent on virtual desktops. They don't ship it.
No, we do, and we have forever. But are we going to worry about that?
They have a freaking patent, dude. Their patent application has the KDE taskbar in the drawing.
Yes.
And they have a patent on it, awarded to them.
Seriously.
I think they have a patent on the scroll wheel.
So
get rid of your scroll wheel mouse, too.
This is exactly what it comes down to. It is obvious that the people making these decisions are not thinking this through, or they're just trying to spread FUD. Because if they were really concerned about, potential patent violations, they would go through and strip out everything from the Linux desktops that might have patent infringement, which they're not. There are tons of things that might be legitimate patent infringement.
Word, Brian.
This doesn't look like it's one of them, guys.
And okay, here's a great example of if you're really worried about being a patent infringement. I read a lot of different developer blogs, a lot of Free Software Foundation volunteer blogs, the guys that run the different foundations out there, the Linux Fund Foundation.
Yeah.
So a Free Software Foundation volunteer. Now he doesn't officially work. He is a on the record volunteer. He's like a pledged volunteer, something like that. On his blog, it's a lot of anti-mono. He calls it evil and all these things. Whatever. I mean, if you don't like it from a technical standpoint,
you don't have to like it. It's great.
But he doesn't like it from a patent Trojan horse standpoint. And so he has come up with a script to make Ubuntu pure. I'm using air quotes there because that was his term. To purify Ubuntu. So here's what the script does. Line 1, app-get remove-purge. So he's purging. Which is not safe to do. Don't do that.
Don't do that. That's really dumb.
He's purging. First, he lists every mono app, and then he lists all of the mono libraries.
So basically, yank mono out.
Rip it out. Actually,
rip it out
with a big hacksaw.
And basically leave a mess.
Yeah. Don't care if like Ubuntu-desktop is dependent on something that you just ripped out. Just go for it.
Just do it.
And then the second line is app-get install MS Core fonts.
Good Lord.
Third line is app-get install W32 codecs and app-get install Ubuntu extra restricted extras. So he immediately removes the mono stuff, which may potentially be in a legal gray area. And then the next line installs stuff that is actually against the law to install unless you have agreed to a EULA to run it on Windows. So it's so obviously not patent stuff. Yeah. It is a troll. It is a fear-mongler troll.
It's take out something that may have a gray area and forcefully install something that what you're doing is illegal. You are violating EULAs. You are violating licenses.
Right.
Explicitly. I mean, this is just stupid. This is just straight up stupid, you guys.
And, one thing to point out is, okay, say you install Tomboy, and Brian, you made this point to me earlier in the week, and it just clicked, and I can't believe I hadn't thought of this. If you install Tomboy, it brings in like mono GTK or whatever, right? But the next time, when you install GNOME-do, it doesn't have to install those things.
No.
It uses those.
They're already there.
You load that stuff once.
Right.
And then you can keep installing apps, and it's not like it brings it in with every app.
No, and realistically, mono applications are actually fairly small when they're compiled. Actually, smaller than most applications out there.
Well, they have a lot of external dependencies, but that's
they
why
do have
smaller.
a lot. But let's say you have a desktop and you have Tomboy and Banshee and FSPA and GNOME-do and a bunch of other mono applications. Yeah, over a little bit of time, you actually could save some space versus some of the larger non-mono alternatives to those applications. So the size issue
How does it work as far as memory consumption goes? Like if I have Tomboy running, do I already have the libraries in memory, so when I fire up FSpot, it can utilize that? Or
it depends on
if it shares.
You are going to end up using a lot more memory.
Okay.
Not. I shouldn't say a lot. I should say a little more memory because you're using mono.
Yeah.
You are going to, just by the very structure of it.
Now, if you want to uninstall mono, I don't care. Do it.
Seriously, I really don't have a problem.
Just don't make it all fuddy.
Don't make it all fuddy, and don't reinvent the wheel when so much of your damn distro is broken. If you haven't loaded up Fedora recently, grab the Fedora Live CD, throw it in there and boot, and then use their built-in installer from the Live CD to install it to your hard drive. It doesn't freaking work. You know how long it's been broken? At least the last 3 releases of Fedora, it has been barely functional.
Maybe they should release that in mono.
Seriously, you know what? Rewrite that in mono. Or come on, just fix what you've got that's broken. Or come up with new applications to solve real problems that we have instead of taking an application that everyone knows, everyone uses, and everyone seems to enjoy, like Tomboy, and rip it out, just rip it forcefully out, and then transition people over to something else that they literally, there's no perceivable benefit. And here's the extra problem is now, so let's say we take the Fedora team at their word, right? Mm-hmm. They're doing it based on a space issue and or heck, let's say that they're right. There could be a potential gray area there legally with mono, right?
Which they won't commit to. They'll say, well, we're having our legal team review. I'm so sick of that answer from Red Hat and Fedora. That is
absolutely a FUD answer. That is obviously insinuating that there is. That's the impression they want people to have. So let's say that they're right. Let's say there is a legal gray area. That means it's unknown. So what we're doing right now is causing pain to solve an unknown, possibly non-existent problem.
It's one of these things where it's like, one of the strengths of open source development is if Microsoft got it up their butt, they were going to do something. If they could, we work around it so fast. I mean, remember when SCO was making claims about the init process?
Yeah.
And where wasn't even obviously that didn't work out for them.
No.
But before it even, we worked so fast that before the legal system even got them in a courtroom, we had already rewritten that and gotten out in every freaking distribution.
Seriously.
It was fixed.
But it would have been silly for us to tackle it beforehand because we didn't know it was going to come up.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Let's be practical. Attack the problems that need to be attacked. Mm-hmm. By attack, I mean sit down with your developers and fix them. And if they don't need to be fixed, do something else.
And this frustration, we share it with G-Node. It's like I have the Fedora 11 released version of bugs that it shipped with.
These
it shipped
are great.
It is.
Holy moly!
This list is shameful.
It is, and these are not little bugs. And I'm going to be clear here.
They'll be worked out.
We make fun of, like when Vista came out or XP came out, we trashed them because we heard rumors about their like 30,000 some odd bugs in their databases that weren't fixed, things like that. And agreed, that is ridiculous. But however, the bugs that Fedora shipped with
are things like file system not created, installation doesn't work, graphics driver is so bad that you'll have horrendous performance with your Intel chip, the most common graphics chip.
And here's another thing that's pissing me off lately. I got trashed for being a guy that liked NVIDIA graphics cards because, we need to have drivers that are open source. Okay, great. So let's have all these Intel chips that all have open source drivers. But now we've got all these new distros out here. The worst driver performance you can get is with the open source drivers for the Intel chips.
Here's one that's just ridiculous.
I'm like, whoa, come on, guys.
Pulse audio-based volume control cannot adjust volume satisfactory. Their current workaround, install another volume controller.
Yes.
So you have 2 different places to adjust your volume.
Yep. And by the way, if you do that, it gets freaky and screws your sound up completely so that audio stops working. Just to make it clear, that doesn't actually work.
Sound Blaster Live and other EMU 10K1 based cards don't work.
Oh, by Sound Blaster Live, you mean one of the most popular third-party sound
actually, Brian,
card brands.
the best-selling sound card ever.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then there's so many other EMU 10K based cards out there, and they don't work.
So what it comes down to is
Now they're going to release fixes, and Fedora 12 will have a lot of this fixed.
However, a lot of these problems might not have been there if they would have spent the time focusing their development energies on things that actually matter instead of stripping features out. This is so stupid.
I won't go through the list because
it's like, and it seriously is driving me nuts.
We could do a 2-hour show that went through just the highlights. Just the highlights.
Just like the big Fedora bugs that are like crippling and make it so no one would ever use Fedora.
Not even like we won't even just covering stuff that applies to Intel platform or x86 platform, not even PowerPC stuff. I could have an entire show covering the highlights, and yet we're focusing on replacing G-Note and Mono.
That's seriously, guys.
So, and Fedora, it's like you guys out there and have built things like Network Manager and improved VPN support and AIGLX. I mean, you have built some core stuff
that all
has benefited so much.
Seriously,
and we need you guys to step up to the plate and with the backing of your very large corporation who has a major stake in the Linux marketplace. We need you to get us to things like Grand Central Dispatch or sound cards that work. I'll take either one. Maybe start with the sound card and then go to the Grand Central Dispatch.
You know what? I think that's probably a reasonable stepping stone.
How about you let me decide if I want to use Mono? How about you let me make that choice on my computer? You're talking about freedoms all the time, and then you take them from me. And in Fedora 12, it's very possible that I'll have to go to some third-party repo who has no quality control at all, for all I know, and get that software on my machine. It's completely ridiculous, and I can't even believe you take yourself seriously. I mean, how do you do that? How do you consider yourself an actual leader in any kind of market when you make those kind of choices? And as a matter of fact, you are enforcing the option to not allow me to use your product as a desktop. I can't use Fedora 11 or 12.
You can't.
If you're gonna take software away from me, I don't even care if I don't use it. If you're not giving me the option, then you're no better than the Kindle. You're no better than the iPhone. You're no better than anybody else out there that makes products. This is your version of DRM. You are restricting what software I can use. So how is that not DRM? Because I don't see any freaking difference. You're enforcing something on me like that, and I don't know where the hell you think you get off. I don't know why you think you know better than I do. You know what? I don't think you have a crack team of lawyers. I think Red Hat has 3 lawyers on staff, and I think they care more about enterprise subscriptions and the language of those contracts than they give one crap about if Mono's legal, because to them, they see a standard, they see a license, they say, I don't give an S.
Man has a point. I just would like to point out that
I'm angry at these guys.
Fedora really got Chris pissed off.
It's like
you're
handcuffing me. You're handcuffing me. You're talking all of this crap. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
They don't.
You're implying. Well, we'll have our legal team look at it. Which, how many times throughout the years of Red Hat and Fedora have I heard the answer? Our legal team is looking into it.
It's ridiculous.
They don't include Flash because their legal team is looking into it.
And here's the crazy thing.
Adobe releases an open letter to the Fedora community saying, you can distribute Flash.
Yeah.
We won't come after you.
Yeah, here's a
and
specific
Fedora's
certified
answer
thing,
is, our legal team's looking into it. Bull crap.
It's total bullcrap.
Bullcrap.
And when Microsoft comes out and does anything similar, like Ballmer will make some random offhand remark of, well, in terms of Linux, our legal team is looking at it. We freak out and are like, Ballmer is spreading FUD and he's trying to destroy us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. If we're going to take that stance with Microsoft and all of them, we need to take that stance with Red Hat and Fedora and their project leaders. More of this crappy
and let's be
FUD.
honest.
It's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. It hurts everybody. Come on, we're in this for cool technology and everything else.
I always
say,
I'm going to try to keep a cool head because I always say,
I know you're getting all worked up here. You're the level-headed one.
It's so angry. It's so frustrating. It makes me so angry because I just want people to think about it and don't be reactionary. Don't spread FUD. Be aware if there's issues. And I just want. So I'm going to try to take a step back. But my point here is I'm not worked up about Mono. I'm worked up about idiots.
Yes.
And I'm worked up about the fact that I realistically look at it and I think 10 years from now, this isn't going to be an issue.
Nope, it's not going to.
You know what? Actually, I take that back. 2 years from now, this is not going to be an issue. There's going to be Silverlight apps. There's going to be Air apps.
Realm of things.
There's going to be more. There's going to be more .NET based applications. It's going to be just another language. It's going to be like C++. It's just going to be another option out there. Okay.
Yep.
So in 2 years' time, we'll look back and go, yeah, we really wasted a lot of time. And meanwhile, why you fools are making these stupid decisions that waste everyone's time and you're not focusing on important issues. Things like Windows 7 are under development. Things like Snow Leopard are under development.
Yep.
Better alternatives out there than what were out there before are getting better.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is Vista sucked butt, and it was a great opportunity. And now Windows 7's coming out, and you know what? The benchmarks are good.
Yep.
The reviews are good. And Joe Public's like, oh, well, I waited on XP. I could just go to 7. And we wasted time.
Years
and we're
of
continuing
time.
to waste time.
Yep.
And in 2 years' time, where are we going to be? If we sit here with our thumbs up our butt spinning over things like, I don't know if mono's legal. You know what? Who gives a crap? Ship it, and if it's illegal, we'll pull it. If it's not, then we've got it. Well, I'll make that choice.
And here's the reality of the thing. We can sit around and second guess ourselves for a long time.
That's what we're doing. We're spending more time going back and forth on these issues than we are going forward.
At least from the mono situation, from everything we can understand, it's legal for us to ship it. It is legal. There's no good reason currently to think it's illegal, other than a couple of trolls going around screaming and spreading FUD about it. There's no big legal firm that's come out and said, oh, after an exhaustive review of all the various things involved and the patents related, we've come to the conclusion that blah, blah, blah.
Because those people don't think it's an issue, so they don't see the need for it.
Why would they do it? And seriously, if at this point already, if Microsoft thought it was an issue, Microsoft would already sued the bejesus out of somebody.
Yeah.
Because they're a huge corporation. And I'm not going to go on the defense of Microsoft or villainize Microsoft. They're just a big company that's sitting over there. Now, if they feel like their intellectual property is being trespassed upon and damaged, they will seek to fix it.
Especially when you've got...
But they're inviting mono team members out to Redmond so that they can work with them to get Silverlight working in the form of Moonlight, to get mono to be better supported and have better features. Microsoft is showing that they have a vested interest in seeing that happen.
If you show me a lawyer who says he can't win that case, if he can't go, Mr. Ballmer, on January 8th of 2008, did you fly Mr. Itakazo out to Redmond to work with your developers on this mono product here? And then Ballmer will go, well, yes, we did. If you show me a lawyer that can't win that argument,
seriously, that's a bad lawyer.
That's like not a lawyer. That's just a guy that has a business card.
Yeah. You need to go above the $15 an hour lawyer range at that point.
And then and we talked about this last episode, but there was a guy who is on record as a very anti-mono guy. He runs an anti-mono site blog, and he called up a company called Microsoft, who has they have nearly 100,000 employees when you consider all the contractors.
Yep, but it's around 50,000 people on main campus
staff.
alone in Redmond. There,
and he called up this 50,000 person campus and got a person on the phone and said, "Can you ship me a license that says an agreement that you won't sue me?" And they said, "I'll get back to you." And then that has ignited this whole other aspect.
Seriously, which is ridiculous, because you think about that through for a second. If there's 50,000 people within one town working for a company,
probably not even one person in that 50,000 could give them an answer, because they'd have to have 12 meetings about it.
There's the thing, is that means that there's at least 50,000 phone numbers he could call. So there's already a 1 in 50,000 chance that he talked to the right person. Which, I mean, come on, this is ridiculous.
And there's no single person that can make that choice.
And there's no single person. They'd have to have a meeting about it. And then you know what? Maybe they could. Maybe they could. Maybe, probably, in the end, they just wouldn't care, because they have no vested interest in giving a document like that. It's just the way it is.
Especially not to a dude. Now, if it's Oracle or Adobe calling up, they might take that call a little more seriously. But something tells me that those companies probably have a phone number for a rep.
Now, on the flip side of all this, Debian is looking at actually including mono by default.
Yeah.
You know what? I like Debian. You know why?
Yeah.
Because they do what I like to call make
rational
intelligent decisions, and then and here's a fun one, and then think about them to make sure they're not being boneheaded. So I was just thinking maybe the Fedora team wants to take a look at what Debian's doing, because that seems to be working with the whole Ubuntu based on Debian and Ubuntu trouncing Fedora in every possible market share benchmark.
Well, it helps that they get to use a bunch of Fedora's code. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Think about if you had Ubuntu today without Network Manager. That would be ass.
That would be ass.
So, but I do agree.
I'm saying.
But actually, I think it makes your point stronger, because you
exactly
got these guys developing fantastic stuff for the Linux desktop.
I'm thinking the Fedora guys.
They're pioneers of so much stuff, and they're still not on top of the pile.
That's the thing is I think Fedora has great devs.
Yeah.
I think they've got great
ideas
designers even.
as
I think what it is though, they make great software for Linux. But the people putting together Fedora and the people at Red Hat don't seem to have clue one about what it takes to have an operating
Another
system.
little funsy
and
thing.
to put together the whole package. They just don't get that.
A lot of the stuff that kicks off the mono discussion, should we include it, should we not? Sometimes it's like a bug, and the bug is you should remove mono. It has possible legal issues. Okay, so here's something I noticed. Fedora has a thread in their mailing list. Debian, the mini distro, I forget.
I can't remember
It has a bug entry. Ubuntu in Launchpad has a bug entry. Guess what? 3 different distributions, the same dude. It's a few people going around kicking all the dust up.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
About having mono in the distro. So there's bugs in all of them. One guy posted all of them.
Yes.
That's the thing. This is not a majority of people. This is a very small minority of people causing these problems. And it just so happens that in the Fedora project, apparently they've either gotten to them or the Fedora leadership includes them.
Well, people get dumb in groups. I mean, that's honest. I mean, you
true.
do.
That's true.
You make, as an individual, everyone, it's like everyone always thinks the other people can't drive in the rain.
Right.
Oh man, these idiots on the road can't drive in the rain, but then everybody says that.
Everyone, so that means
because as
pretty
a group,
much everyone, we drive bad in the rain.
Yeah, it's just as a group of people, when you get together, there's kind of like a horde mentality that takes over, and
it's
herd
true.
mentality.
It's true.
Not horde, that'd be something else.
Yeah. Not alliance.
It would not be alliance.
No, it would not.
I'm mad because I'm honestly getting scared. I've got web stats that show I have got. So by the way, if you haven't checked out Woopra, you should. I have got in Woopra more Windows 7 users than I do Kubuntu or OpenSUSE or any of that stuff. Ubuntu and Fedora still on top of the pile.
Yep.
Ubuntu by a lot.
Ubuntu by a lot.
XP, then Fedora.
Yep.
Then the Mac. But you know what? Mac kind of flatline. Doesn't really change.
No, it's been consistent. Yeah.
Hey, sure, that makes sense for our audience.
The same's true of my blog. It's the same. Yeah.
It makes sense. Windows 7, though.
It's moving up.
It's
moving up fast.
And there's a lot of people out there that there's a lot of applications of Windows they want, but they just freaking hate Vista. They hate XP. It's old.
Yep.
And I'm worried that if we sit here and we'd have a big circle jerk over mono all the time, we're not going to be able to answer
Windows 7 is going to keep going up, and then, oh, look at that. Ubuntu and Fedora are going to take a little
That's going to be sad, dude. If I look at our stats one day.
And here's the thing. Here's the reality of the situation. The first one to go of those two is going to be Fedora.
Oh, absolutely.
Because here's the thing. If you put down 3 computers...
The Mac OS X is already nipping at the heels of the Fedora.
If you put down 2 computers in front of me, and one of them's running Windows 7 and one of them's running Fedora 11, I will use the Windows 7
Well, I'm
box.
so pissed at Fedora right now, I probably would too. I'm so mad at those guys.
Well, the thing is, I actually can't use the Fedora box because it doesn't actually work. Like, there are so many things broken with it.
Well,
from the sound to everything else. I can't actually do my day job or any of my hobbies in the current release of Fedora. I could in older versions.
Yeah, I agree.
In the current release, I can't.
Well, it'll
so
work
therefore,
as long as you
have to.
As long as you don't want to have like fine
audio
controls
playback,
over your audio,
audio playback, decent photo management, etc., etc. If you don't want any of that, you can use Fedora, and this is a problem.
Or just use KDE, which pretty much has Kphoto and
that's true. If I go the KDE side, but Fedora is more of a GNOME thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's frustrating, but what can we do?
It's funny, dude. Look at all these people in our chat room that are saying they're using Win 7 right now, and it's not bad. Look at this.
And this is the Linux Action Show.
The problem
chat room.
is Microsoft made some adjustments, and okay, I know like a lot of you out there are saying, well, it's just Vista with some polish, and in a lot of ways it is.
Yeah, I'm on Windows 7 right now. It's honestly not bad at all. I'm on Windows 7 and I love it.
Yeah.
Well, here's in front of me right now.
It is in a lot of ways.
It's pretty good.
It's Vista with some polish, but then they've done things that it does use less memory. It uses less hard drive. It does XYZ faster. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not a big deal because those are things Linux can respond to.
Right.
There's nothing really introduced with Windows 7 that Linux can't respond to.
No, there's really not. Linux is actually... It is a good base. It has a great number of tools, a lot of great utilities and libraries, and it's a good base system to build anything we want from.
Could someone in the chat room shout out the biggest feature and make it a big thing.
Yeah.
Could someone in the chat room shout out the biggest feature to be introduced in Linux desktop in the last year? Because
I know what I think it is, but
I've got an idea. In here, but I want to see what people think because honestly, when you say Windows 7,
someone in the chat, I'm running Windows 7 because Brian said Linux sucks.
yeah. Okay, so eBuyer says Compass Fusion. Okay, that's a good one.
General use of Compass.
Okay.
Huh. I'm going to guess there's going to be a big trend of that going to be coming on.
Yeah, Gedit, nice. Gedit is rad.
Okay, Gedit's a good one, but
I'm trying to think of like look at I'm thinking distro bullet points. What is like a feature because it's been boot time, it's been those different stuff.
Boot time and new version of Firefox are the only two things
we've
that
got extended 4, but then there was that data loss
really
bug,
work.
so there was a patch and there's been reduced performance with the data loss.
So you're not going to do extended 4.
Okay, KDE, great. That's a great one. KDE 4 is a great one.
Yep.
But I don't know if KDE 4 is still quite there for general use.
It's not.
My concern is I feel like we're stalling a little bit. We're not totally stalled out. There's tons of evolutionary improvements. There's tons of little things here and there that really do add up over time.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we've stalled just a bit. Now, Apple and Microsoft, they get to come out with these big feature lists because, well, they ship once every couple of years or more.
Yep.
And so it's a bigger deal. But at the same time, I'm trying to think back and retrospectively in a year, and I really don't have anything other. NC Compass and Compass Fusion. Well, the news there is the team's doing not so hot for the Compass team.
They're dead.
And you got Kwin, and that's got improvements, but that's not there yet, and it's not at Quartz Extreme or Aero levels yet.
Now, really, in my mind, the biggest change over the last year plus thereabouts time frame has been a couple of key applications. Banshee's come along and done really well.
With now, device sync and all
now
that
it's
stuff?
got a little more ways to go before it's really going to be like a conqueror. But in my opinion, it's great.
That's mono. Okay, so Banshee is
Gnome
mono-based. Gnome is great.
It's a great app.
Mono-based,
got a lot of stuff mono-based.
Okay.
Now, the latest revisions of Qt and Qt Creator, but those are commercial applications.
But they're awesome.
That are awesome.
But they're not an operating system bullet point.
But they're not an operating system bullet point. Honestly, I'd have to go with right now. If I wanted to point at one thing that's been better about Linux in the last year, it's Banshee. Which I mean, it's just a music player
and configuration of network through Network Manager.
It's gotten better.
I got to give the nod. No, I think it's gotten really good. Get on wireless used to be like this
it used to be pretty hard. Yeah,
circle of
doom.
Pain.
Yeah, and editing
a trifecta really is a trifecta of doom.
And editing a few configuration files to get your SSID in there. Yeah, we haven't had to do that for a long time.
Songbbird's great. But see, none of these things are like this amazing progress. Like I'm really stuck right now on DirectX Compute and Grand Central and on OpenCL because it's like
the major hardcore architectural changes really make it exciting.
Well, because it's gonna change my daily life as far as editing goes.
Now that was kind of the thing with KDE. It's just that KDE is not quite there for day-to-day use. But I mean, if you really think about it, like when Apple comes out with a new OS, except for a few occasions.
Really, for the most part, I think both I think they're getting evolutionary too.
But I mean, for the most part, like if you look at OS 10.1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, for the most part,
I would say 1, 2, and 3 have some solid improvements.
Oh yeah, but they were
between
just
4
starting.
and 5. It's like
3 to 4 to 5 is. For the most part, you pick up the box of Mac OS 10 and you look at it, and the big changes were a new version of the chat client, the new version of the calendar, a new version of the music player, things like that. You get new versions of better applications, and whatever OS changes are required to support them. Now, I think that...
But you know what, Brian?
We are getting that, but for the most part, those things are not actually shipping in most major distros by default.
And
things like Banshee... and up until later this year, you're not going to find
you look at Snow Leopard and you look at Win 7, and there's like for the most part it's improved. Like one of the actual Snow Leopard features is improved. iChat now does a higher resolution video chat,
right?
Which is cool. Video chat's rad. But
it's cool.
I got Skype.
Skype.
But they have usually a couple of nuggets in there.
Yeah.
That are like epic.
That's true.
And
you want the epic.
And I feel like we're not there. I feel like we're not getting the epic because we're too busy masturbating over mono. Yep. I can't believe we have to do this discussion right now. I cannot believe it's even something we have to consider.
When we're in a position where if you ask people what's the best things, the best new apps, the best changes to Linux over the last year to year and a half,
and I swear to God, if you say boot time, I'll punch you in the freaking face.
And of the top 10 list, at least like half of them are mono applications. To say that we need to strip mono is basically saying let's get rid of any progress we've made in the last year to 2 years.
Well, if you're not talking KDE, because I still think QT
if you're not talking
and
KDE,
KDE4 are fantastic.
I see. I love QT Creator is amazing.
Yeah. Well, we gushed on it in that in-depth look we did a little while ago.
But just the same, it's still one of the big things, right? I mean,
Joe,
there aren't a lot of great KDE applications that are really making everyone freak now.
Not yet,
And part of that is because KDE has a very small user base.
Yeah, well, it's smaller. I mean, there's different markets
compared to GNOME.
It does now.
Right.
That's really, I think
that's a sign of the last few years.
You attribute that to Ubuntu, really, because
Absolutely.
I think before it was pretty neck and neck, and then Ubuntu rolls out like an 8 million deployment in Africa, and you're like, well, that's kind of hard to compete
how do you
with.
compete with that?
But at the same time, Qt has done some fantastic stuff. There's a lot of stuff in KDE I think is brilliant.
Yeah,
I don't think we're necessarily seeing all the fruits of that labor yet, so I can't really put it up there yet. I want to, though. Like, I want KDE and Live to get amazing, I want it to be because of the new audio backend and all of this different stuff, right?
But I just don't see that happening. I see other applications moving faster, like PTV and other things.
I mean, a great example is if you're watching this live stream right now, it's not a very good green screen keying, but we are on the fly keying a green screen
in real time
and then streaming that over the web. While it's streaming in Flash over the web, it's also recording locally to H.264. While it's keying in a high resolution, it's streaming and saving locally. 2 different compression streams, all that. And the reason it's able to do that is there's a little technology called Quartz Extreme, and it uses Quartz Extreme to do the keying, and then it uses a QuickTime backend to do the encoding. And Bob's your uncle. It's done because the developer of Wirecast, or the developers, did not have to invent that stuff to do it. And if Wirecast was to create a Linux version today, they would have to write
too much work.
all of that.
Yeah. Now, there are some technologies that they could utilize, but they would only get them part of the way there. And because we're sitting around so often bickering about which frameworks are okay to utilize,
they could use
we're not going to get to that
there
point.
Is I don't know if you can send live data to FFmpeg and have it output to a fully contained not just the compressed, but I don't know how that works.
You can't really do it live quite like that.
But then also so it's like it would be separate technologies that don't really complement each other, and you'd have to go out and get like Adobe's. Adobe does have the Flash presentation server for Linux, and it's just like, and then how do you even do the keying, the live key? I don't know.
I agree. It's just not doable. Yeah.
So
we need, in a nutshell, we need.
You know what the best feature right now on that Dell is?
These people.
You know what that best feature is right now on that Dell is Grub, because Grub lets me boot between OS x86 and Linux.
Yeah.
And so when it's time to do a live stream,
boot over.
Think about how sad that is. To do a live stream, I have to shut down Linux so I can do the Linux Action Show. And do I like that? Not a frickin' all. I mean, if I had to drain an ounce of blood every day into that machine to get it to be able to do this work under Linux, I would slit my wrist every time before a live show to power the machine. I literally would do that, and I can't.
He can't. It's not.
So the best feature on that Dell right now is Grub, because it lets me load OS x86.
Yeah.
And then in an hour and 30 minutes or whatever, I will reboot it back into Linux, and then it will run to do a few tasks under Linux until the next show. Yep. And that is frickin' pathetic.
It's
but
horrible.
Hey, at least if I put Fedora 11 on there, it won't have Banshee or Tomboy, and then when 12, I won't even have to worry about mono at all.
Oh, then you'll be totally safe. Microsoft won't come and steal your baby in the middle of the night.
At least I won't get sued by Microsoft.
Good Lord. Come on, guys. And
by the way, Brian, when I reboot into Ubuntu, that second monitor doesn't work. I bought that Dell with Ubuntu on it. That second monitor worked.
Yep.
It is the same monitor, the same video card.
Yep.
I have upgraded to Ubuntu 904. I think, no, the last rev. I'm on 810. 810.
Boom, stop working.
Doesn't work.
Yep, same here. This little guy, 810, sound works great. 904, boom, sound doesn't work anymore.
But you know what? Hey, at least I don't have mono, so that way I don't have to worry about not being able to put food on Dylan's little baby plate. So
good Lord.
I don't have dual screens. I don't have the ability to actually produce the video version. Now the audio version, sure, great. Video version, no.
Well, the audio version with caveats. I mean, there are certain things we can't do.
Well,
but
I actually have just resigned myself to the fact that when I encode the show, I can encode it at 96 kilobit stereo, and it will be 56 megabytes. I can encode it using whatever encoder on Windows, I forget whatever the thing is, or on the Mac, whatever, QuickTime or whatever, and it'll be 46 megabytes, and it'll sound better. Same bit rate, same hertz, same everything. It will sound better and be smaller.
And you know what's crazy?
And you know what? Yeah. You know what's crazy? You know what's even crazier?
Lay it on me.
Same thing for OGG.
It gets worse with OGG. With OGG, when we were encoding it with things like Audacity, and then we were spitting those OGGs out, half the time, those OGGs all the time would only work on roughly half of the OGG players out there. Yeah. Now, if we encoded it into OGG using
Command
Windows tools
or Windows tools or Mac OS 10 tools, it comes out better.
It comes out better.
No, here's my workflow.
And that's with OGG.
So if I'm in Audacity, I can export out, and this isn't Audacity's fault. It is it's the
underlying tools that are being used. Yeah.
So here's what I've actually gone out and had to build FFmpeg with patches from source.
Yes. Just to encode a show, as if we aren't already doing enough, which is rad, because ridiculous.
I would rather be building FFmpeg from source than making podcast. Wait, no, that's not why I do podcasts. I don't do podcasts to build FFmpeg from source. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
I realize I'm way off on a tangent now.
No, you know what?
But this is all crap that needs to be fixed.
It's not really a tangent. What it all comes back down to is people who are trying to set the tone and trying to set the direction for both Linux as a whole and individual projects are getting strung up on these little moral, ethical issues. Now, granted, we should be moral, we should be ethical,
and
yada, yada.
If they're worth considering,
then
by all means.
Let's do it. But they're getting strung up on issues that aren't even issues. It's like they're inventing issues just so they can get angry, and then they're sitting down, creating an us versus them environment. And the crazy thing is, it's not us Linux versus them Microsoft. It's us Linux versus them Microsoft, Apple, the other Linux, the other
world.
Linux, and the other Linux. So it's here's like, let's say Fedora that's off in their own little corner versus everyone, every other Linux distro.
So crazy.
And so we're reinventing the wheel over and over again. We never get any of the real work done, and it takes us 3 to 4 times as long to do simple stuff that every other OS
Let
gets.
me put this into perspective. So a client of mine does video work for law firms, and they had this bug in OS 10, the previous version of OS 10, 10.4, where when they had a specific vendor's express card in their laptop, and they had a LaCie FireWire 800 drive of 500 gigabyte capacity or more, and they had a USB M audio device hooked up, and they powered off their machine and powered it on again, the express card wouldn't work until you popped it out and popped it in again. That is their bug. For me, I have to build my tools from source, and they still don't work. And it is a bug that's been in Ubuntu for years now. And if you go to the forums for video editors and things like that, or even like the camera forums, these are common topics. So it's really well known. And it's just like, I can't encode this, or I can't do this, or if I do this, the frame rate is horrible because there's this bug where it only outputs your 30 frame project at 12 frames per second.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to build from source to fix that.
Yep.
I'm like, okay. Really?
Oh man!
You got a there's already a bug filed. There's bugs filed. There's discussion topics on Ubuntu's forums, on DV creators forums. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I hear you, man.
What's wrong with building from source? So I should address that. So what's wrong with building source? It was asked in the chat room. Is it takes a lot of time because you have to know how to do it, and you have to then rip out all of the old stuff.
Yep.
Not mess up all the stuff that depends on it.
Yep.
Install the new stuff, and then you don't get any security fixes, and you have to do it every time you install your box.
Unless you're a developer on that project, you should never, I repeat, never build from source.
For ordinary day use, you shouldn't. If there's something really, really, really if you want something wild that's just like really hypothetical.
No.
No, I mean,
unless you are a developer, you have no place building from source.
It really
you
just
are
doesn't make
going
sense.
To cause yourself problems. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, what about Linux from scratch? And what about, well, I built from source my own M player. I'm like, okay, cool. That's fine.
Right on.
You are basically asking for trouble. The vast majority of people that I've known who go around building things from source. Now, I'm included. Includes me here. So I'm not chastising you guys. I'm chastising myself more than anything. Cause problems for themselves, which then get translated to problems in general. So do not do that. It breaks package problems, it breaks dependencies, and it screws up your
systems.
Now,
if you want to build Firefox 3.6 from source, there's not a package out yet, and you want that. I get that. I've done that. If I'm using something like FFmpeg super huge. Packages should do the job to make an audio podcast. To make an audio podcast, packages should do the job. To encode a video, just a video, that should work.
Just a random video. I mean, how hard is that?
And here's what drives me nuts: is the Hackintosh Dell over there that is encoding this in x.264. It's encoding in x.264, not Apple's H.264 from QuickTime. It is x.264, the open source implementation of it. I have a single-click install to get the latest version of x264 on that Hackintosh. When I reboot into Ubuntu, I'm building from source.
One click.
Huh.
Yep. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
Mono, right, Brian?
But mono, obviously, we should be worrying about mono. Way to go, guys!
All right, I gotta get my center point. All right, Brian. I think
you're bringing it back. Did you vent it?
Yeah, I think.
Did you get the nastiness out of your system?
We've burned the earphones out of people's MP3 players for long enough, Brian. Let's wrap this sucker up.
Let's wrap it up.
Super long show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we were worried if it was going to be a long show or not.
Yeah.
We just don't have enough news.
Turns out we did not need to worry about that.
All right.
So I'm going to go say hi to the wife. So I hope you guys in the live stream, we just need like 5-10 minutes.
Give us 5 minutes. We'll be back in 5.
Yeah, we'll be back in 5.
We'll be back in 5. We'll do the end of the show. We'll do the intro, and we'll do all that stuff.
Yep. We got to wrap it up and got to watch Brian screw up the intro a couple times. So we'll be back in like 5 minutes. I got to pee anyway. All right, we'll do that. We'll pee too.
hear it?
Creepy.
That is creepy.
What are you, Ange?
Yeah, I'm still in here.
Oh. And we are back.
Tell everybody to wake up from their nap.
All right, wake up, everybody. We're going to have a rock star
Aren't you
time.
glad we recorded that?
That was 5 minutes of recording, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nice.
File size for the win. All right. So.
I hope that you took advantage of that downtime. Little intermission break there.
What do you say, Brian? Time to record the rest of or actually the end of the show.
No, I'm good.
Okay. And
Let's just call it right there. Okay, I'm ready.
okay.
And I do believe that unequivocally brings us to the end of this week's
Absolutely.
broadcast. Ooh, okay. So that was a long one.
Yeah, it was a long one.
We
We
talked a bit.
apologize. We had things to say.
I don't know. I was impressed, man. You got
Well,
you got yourself fired up. Normally, everyone's all like, "Man, Brian's getting all cranky, and Chris is centering him. Good thing Chris is there." You were all like freaking out.
But you did a good job.
I
you
thought
did a
you were
good job.
I thought you were gonna kill it.
I was about ready to throw this mic across the room. I
You
gotta
were
be
good.
honest with
You were gonna lose it. So I'm impressed. This was a relaxing week for me.
Well, I want to say to people out there, if they're thinking about picking up some hardware to make their own show, if you want to see some of the gear that we use, go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/store. And in there, in that store, we've got kind of like it's our gear store of the different stuff we use to produce these shows.
It's very fancy. And of course, if you want to just talk to us, you want to chat with us or the rest of the peeps watching the show, you can head over to jupitercolony.com. It's very, very fancy.
And I got to warn you, if you want to email us, you can. But I am 102 emails behind right now.
Are you really?
It's probably more since I checked that before the show. But
I'm pretty behind myself. I'm not sure. I haven't counted though.
It says there on the side. The best way to get a hold of me,
Look at
because
you looking on the side.
Character limitations make responses quick.
Oh, they sure do.
You can hit me up on any of the social networks. I am Chris LAS. So
And I am Brian with a Y, LAS, and
Identica, Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah, I normally spend the time on the Twitter.
Yeah, I do too, because that's where the most people
That's
are.
where all
that's where
the
you'll catch me.
peoples are at,
Brian, did you get yourself a vanity URL on Facebook? Brian, did you get yourself a vanity URL?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Brian,
right
did you get
now.
a vanity URL on Facebook? I'm Chris LAS on Facebook.
Yeah, you're kind of freaking me out right now, man.
All right, so and then of course, like you mentioned, we've got jupitercolony.com. That's
good.
Forum.
It's a good place.
If you want to tell us how stupid we are about this whole mono situation,
And we often are fairly stupid, so
and
that
you
might not
do
be a
it
bad
in front
idea.
of everybody, and then you can link to it and look how I showed these guys how stupid they are. JupiterColony.com is where you do that. Or if you just want to tell us how awesome we are.
We like that too. And if you're ever wondering, hey, I'd like to watch Jupiter Broadcasting content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Hey, Brian, why wouldn't you want to do that?
I actually can't think of one reason why I wouldn't. Go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com/live, LIVE, and that's where, of course, we do all the live shows. We're recording this now live, so some people get to kind of hang with it and see it a
Awesome
little
people.
before everyone else. But when we're not recording, we just play back old episodes and sometimes random old nerdy things just for fun.
It's not just our stuff. It's also just stuff that's cool.
Yeah, so what are you going to do? You get bored looking at this ugly mug all day. I mean, maybe like 18, 19 hours a day, but not all day.
Yeah,
that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, you got to have at least a solid 2 hours of downtime. Otherwise, you don't appreciate it when it's back on.
In moderation.
Yeah.
All right, so I do believe that wraps it
I
up
think so, Brian.
for this week.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Linux Action Show. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
2 of them.
All right, how do you feel like screwing up an intro now, Brian?
Oh, very much so.
All right, let me get that ready for you.
Oh, so how's everyone doing? You guys having a fun time out in chat room Ville this evening?
We had I think a lot of people in the chat room were on the same page with us. So I really felt like people in the chat room were agreeing.
Dude, Linux Action Show listeners are rad.
They are.
I've always
They're
said
so
that.
cool.
I mean, it doesn't even matter. Like we could be hanging out here talking about Linux. We could be hanging out here talking about like frozen burritos, and you guys would always have the right impression. I don't know what it is, but we've just like brought together like the coolest group of people ever.
That's true. Right?
That's all I've got to say on that matter.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point.
Speaking of which, we should have a frozen burrito debate some point because I have opinions.
We give the SFF a ribbing. How does that sound? A ribbing.
I think we stabbed them in the eyeballs when we did.
Comments. Over their comments.
The FSF sounded like douchebags. That's a good way to go too. I'm glad you're writing
over their
this.
comments about the Amazon.
I would get negative.
Kindle.
Me gusta burrito. Just to spite the
Best.
Fedora guys. Nice. Nice. Going to write the current GUI portion of my app in mono just to spite them. My voice is shot.
Yeah. I think the I noticed that the strawberry lemonade at Bob's wasn't a good idea.
No. We got strawberry lemonades beforehand. It kind of ate up the inside of the throat a little bit. No Skype calls this week. We're going to be doing just honestly, this was just too long of an episode to do Skype calls. But we also we're changing around some of the audio setup a little bit, so we didn't really have it all set up just to hit go and run with it this week. So maybe next time, we kind of want to spread those out a little bit. Sometimes they're awesome. Sometimes it's a little slow. So we don't want to do them all the time.
How do I want to phrase the mono discussion? We break down the mono issue.
Tell you how it is.
All right, here we go. We tell you why mono isn't. How do you spell isn't? Is that even?
Isn't.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We
all
tell
right,
you
so
why mono isn't even.
What's so good? All right, so Clutter. Now Clutter you can use for mono as well, and there are bindings there for that, and of course for Python and everything. But Clutter is pretty great. Now on the Banshee front, Banshee's just a very good app. I mean, it's Banshee's one of those things. It syncs really well with a lot of different devices. The Android phones is one of them. It's got a very nice UI on it. It's got a lot of flexibility, and it just works really well. It's, we've had a lot of audio players and a lot of audio managers over the years, some of which are very, very, very good. Amarok being kind of the one that people tend to point to as, oh, Amarok is so great. But Amarok really has some UI issues where it's not really easy. If you're coming to Amarok and you've never used it before, you kind of look at the UI and it kind of makes you go cross-eyed a little bit because, well, what the hell is half of it on there? I mean, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Once you figure out Amarok, it has a lot of power, it has a lot of tools, but it really, it's still not a day-to-day super easy to use. You click somewhere once, or maybe have two clicks, in a row, and then you have all the functionality you need. Amarok, you end up kind of having to find things. They're buried in weird places, and it doesn't really feel all that natural. Banshee, however, is kind of like this really weird mixture between the simplicity of things like, I hate to say it, but things like iTunes, and also things like on the Windows side, it kind of takes some cues from Winamp and a few other things, but it also does take some cues from Amarok and Rhythmbox, and it kind of just is it's like a best of media player.
How do you want me to get?
They did a really nice job with it. You can Dropbox it, or you can instant message it to me. Either way.
Dropbox. I'm saving in Dropbox right now.
Yeah, that works.
What is that?
The police?
Oh, it is, yeah.
So I gotta go, guys.
Yeah.
I hear the police coming.
All right. I just saved it in the Dropbox. Feel free to make any changes you like, and then we'll have it there. Yeah, Dropbox is awesome. I'll go turn off my mic since it's your.
Oh, you don't have to. You can hang out.
Yeah, it sounds better, I think.
All right.
You want the first few seconds of Linux Action to sound the best possible.
All right, Chris. If you say so. All right, guys. So here's the big question. Can Brian take this?
No.
Linux Action Show. I probably can't. We give the FSF a ribbing over their comments about the Amazon Kindle. One of the best companies in the IT to work for is.
You can take out kinda.
One of the best companies in IT to work for is a major Linux player, and we tell you how Nvidia is going to turn your machine up to 11. Then, in a style only found on this Thursday edition of Linux Action Show, in a style. only found on this Father's Day edition of Linux Action Show. We tell you why the mono issue is
Yeah, there you go.
is all just a big distraction. Plus so much more. All right, let's try this out.
You got it? You think? Oh, yeah, my mic's not on.
Dropbox updated.
Nice. You mean Ubuntu one?
Are we recording?
Oh, no. We're recording on there. I got it on the video.
All right, well, we're good enough. Let's rock and roll.
All right. So
Maybe all night. I'd like to party every day if we could.
This damn thing still didn't apply to all tracks. What the hell, dude?
I don't know. Brian doesn't know the answer. I'm going to stumble a few times on this one, I think.
Dude, this is a 9-track project.
Ah, nice job. I'm gonna rock and roll all night and party every day. I'm gonna rock and roll all night. I don't know the rest of the words to that song. I really have no idea where to go from there. I feel lame. I feel like I should know the rest of the words.
Do you want to rock it out?
Right, I'm ready to rock out. Wait a minute. Are we gonna rock out this time?
Yes.
Okay.
3, 2.
This week on the Linux Action Show. Wow, my throat just went to a really weird place there. No, I can keep rocking this.
Okay.
This week on the Linux Action Show, we give the FSF a ribbing over their comments about the Amazon Kindle. One of the best companies in IT to work for is a major Linux player. And we tell you how Nvidia is going to turn your machine up to 11. Then, in a style only found on this Father's Day edition of the Linux Action Show, we tell you why the mono issue is all just a big distraction. Plus so much more. Oh, this week on the Linux Action Show.
Well done. I think it's pre-reading that helps. You know, you pre-read it now. You didn't used to do that.
No, I didn't used to pre-read
I
it.
think that stepped up your game.
Yeah, that really did, didn't it?
All right. Well,
Oh, yeah.
Well, the hell.
Whew.
Turn your mic so I can say goodbye to people.
Good times. Hey, everybody. I think that just about does it. How long's the show? About 1 hour, 45 minutes after we add in music about that?
Yeah, seriously.
Nice.
All right.
Holy moly. I'm going to close these out here.
I'm gonna hit stop on the record. It might drop off the stream, but
Sure
if
is.
not, then we'll say holla at you boys here in a minute.
All right. Hey. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us. Appreciate it, as always. It's a fun time that we have together.